Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 141. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, Dr. Norge on the CGS forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. Tell your Dark Master to make his move soon before I come looking for him. So says the sensei of the Whatnot, Segulin.
How's it going, eh?
That wasn't the only one that I had this week. I had to choose between a few of them, and I was so Batman happy that I had to pull from the current issue of Batman.
Okay.
But I had this other one. Mrs. Robinson, you were nice to me. I probably need a queen to breed with when I take over. Would that be okay? So that was going to be the other potential one.
Okay, yeah.
Because of the whole
from Frankenstein
one. Right, yeah. I was going to take that one. Thinking that, and I chose Mrs. Robinson just because I needed a female name because there was no named female. Although we'll talk about who we think she might be as we talk about that storyline. So I took Mrs. Robinson, either from The Graduate or Lost in Space. You pick. And then my other,
Mrs. Robinson.
Yeah, figuring that you probably sing too. I am Death's cold breath on your shoulder. Death to the circus of Whatnot. Death to its ringmaster. That was the other one. So.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I like that one too. That was my first one.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I went with that first. And as you can see, I kind of flip-flop between them.
Well, you had to go with the Batman's one. I understand that.
I'm kind of regretting the Death's Cold Shoulder one, though, because that probably is my favorite.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Yeah. I don't normally have multiple ones. It's usually I get the one and I just go with it. And this time I changed multiple times, so... We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. We are continuing to support the Hero Initiative. Hero creates things. Did you know that? Hero creates a financial safety net for yesterday's creators who need emergency medical aid, financial support for the essentials of life, and an avenue back into paying work. It's a chance for all of us to give something back to the people who've given us so much enjoyment. For more information, visit www.heroinitiative.org or call 310-909-7809. And we have a handy-dandy link on the front page of RagingBullets.com. And like I've said this before on the show, just the cost of one comic book is a way to help other people out. If we're all doing it, it's a great chance to give some money to the Hero Initiative.
And especially now, because we're entering, the holiday season. We got Turkey Day coming up. We got Christmas and New Year's coming up. So, it's, just give a little bit.
Right, exactly. And especially, with the economy, what it is and all, it's just the cost of a comic book. Do that. We all help out with a little bit of that. All that money adds together and helps somebody out. And encourage your friends to do it, too, that are comic book fans. Maybe they don't, they're not listening to our show or something like that. Just kind of encourage people to, hey, donate something to Hero Initiative. Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Jim, coming out this month is Simon Dark number 16, written by Steve Niles, art and cover by Scott Hampton. The secret of Simon's mysterious new adversary is revealed, but it's too late to stop the nemesis from carrying out his ghoulish plan. Tensions are rising between Simon and Rachel as they both begin to realize there's no place for someone like Simon in the life of a normal girl. Regularly, $2.99, 40% off, only $1.79. Simon Dark, I don't know about you, but that's a book I'm really enjoying.
I started reading it when it first came out. I'm still digging it, still picking it up in floppy. It's definitely a nice little side story. I do build up a couple issues sometimes, and I won't read them, one boom, but, it's a nice flow through, and it's a nice change of pace for me. I'm digging what I'm reading.
I like that it has kind of a tragic horror twist set within the Batman universe. And even though it's in Gotham, it takes place like a little bit in this side area where, Batman wouldn't normally, assuming that it's a huge city, Batman wouldn't normally patrol this area as much as other areas. So it kind of fits. But, that you can see out, you wouldn't be surprised to see the Batmobile coming through there or anything like that. So I like this book a great deal. It is one of those, and one of the reasons why I chose this one, in a day when we're seeing Blue Beetle and books like that, Manhunter canceled, for example, it's a book that if you haven't tried it, Simon Dark is a great book for any fans of the Batman universe. If you're picking up all the other Batman books and you're a Bat fan, give this one a shot if you haven't, because it's great writing, great art, it's a fun story, you're going to feel right at home if you're a Batman fan, but at the same time you're getting something different that's unique in that experience. So I just kind of wanted to, I felt motivated to talk about a book that I think could use some support.
Yeah, it can use a little love.
Batman False Faces, the trade paperback, written by Brian K. Vaughan, art by Scott McDaniel, Scott Collins, Rick Burdett, and others. Cover by Scott McDaniel and Andy Owens. Don't miss this hard-hitting volume from best-selling writer Brian K. Vaughan, collecting Batman 588 to 590, Detective Comics 787, Wonder Woman 160 to 161, and a tale from Batman Gotham City Secret Files. And it's regularly $14.99, 40% off, only $8.99. That's where, DCB Service, it's one of the strengths of it. I buy a decent amount of collected editions from them. And the reason why is, if you look at the price of a collected book, $14.99, okay, it's a big chunk of change. It's a trade paperback and that type of thing. If you chop that 40% off, though, $8.99, now all of a sudden, if you're reading by the trade, which a lot of people do, it's a good way to, grab some books that you read by the trade at a really good price. That's a huge chunk of change off of the book versus, buying it retail.
Yeah, plus you got everything together, so I like that.
Yeah, I do too. Don't forget our in-stock trades book of the month, which we're going to be doing with Simulated Stereo, I think, next week. We're going to still coordinate. I got to coordinate dates with him. If we don't, we might be recording it next week, but it might be after when we have to release things, so I have to check with him. Because I know he's in a different time zone than we are. So we have to take a look at those time zone differences and get a date to schedule where you and I can both be there. So we're going to work that out. Our goal is to shoot for next week to do the first half. If we can't work that out, we'll do it for the following episode. But please, always check the website and the forum for details. As we flesh that out, it will be over the next 2 weeks for sure that we're starting it. So that's our next one that we're going to be jumping out on. That one collects Doom Patrol Volume 2, The Painting That Ate Paris. Written by Grant Morrison, art by Richard Case and John Nyberg, collecting issues 26 to 34 of Grant's run on the Doom Patrol. It's regularly $19.95, 47% off from in-stock trades, only $10.57. And I'm looking forward to having a discussion about that, because I have not read any of that Doom Patrol. You said you bought Volume 1 as well.
Yeah, I know me well enough to know that I'm not just going to want to have Volume 2 there. So, But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hold off reading Volume 1, because I want to see if you can just get Volume 2, read it and understand it, and enjoy it just by itself, or if you do need that Volume 1.
Well, and Simulated Stereo has read all the stuff in the previous volume. So what my figuring is I'm doing my notes for this. Any questions that I'm having about this volume, I'm just going to ask him, and then I'll make an interesting discussion point. So anybody that's out there that was like, oh, I don't know if I want to grab that one because I didn't read Volume 1, feel free to just grab that volume, join us for the discussion. Don't feel like you got to, hold back. Or we're not reading Volume 1 at a time, so we're going to ask questions if we don't know. And feel free to voicemail in your comments and things like that, too. If you have questions for it, voicemail them in. We'll talk about them. InStockTrades.com remains your source for your collected edition needs. Thanks for supporting us. DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Jim, I wanted to remind everyone to check out RagingBullets.com with show news updates, listener-generated content, the Life in the Gutter blog, Bulleteer rants, Mart's blog. I do update the website multiple times during the week. At least 2 to 3 times. So definitely check out the site. I always post the news on the show on the website and the forum. So it's a good way to check out, like, what are we doing, what's our release dates look like and that type of thing. So that's the place to check and find out that show news. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
Well, Sean, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plot lines, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
We have a voicemail line, and we'd love to hear your comments. 440-388-4434. That's 440-388-4434, or Dr. Norge on Skype. That's DRNORGE on Skype. And Skype's a free program that you can download, too. So if that's a long-distance call for you, depending on where you're at, and it's not a free call, definitely do that through Skype as well. So we love those comments. I love the voicemail. So, Jim, let's go ahead and start talking Batman RIP 681. Our first review, because I am chomping at the bit. Batman 681, Hearts of Darkness. Writers, Grant Morrison. Penciler, Tony Daniel. Inker is Sandu Floria. Colorist, Guy Major. Letterer, Jared K. Fletcher. Assistant editor, Janelle Siegel. Editor, Mike Martz. Alex Ross and Tony Daniel on covers. And, dude, it was one of those things, I literally called you today and I said, we have to talk about this today.
Oh, yeah.
As if we didn't have enough to already talk about.
Oh, yeah, we got a light episode already planned, so hey,
right.
Let's throw a Batman discussion in there as well.
Right, wait, and I'm like, dude, we could have easily done like Speeding Bullets, like, which is what we do, because we normally have a full feature, which takes us a long time to put together. I said, dude, I'm already doing notes.
I know,
and it's an oversized issue.
Yeah, this is...
This to me, we always talk about Superman versus Batman fans, things like this. I've broken record. I've talked about it multiple times on the show. This is the guy that brought me to the dance, and when they do it right, it just makes me giddy. This made me giddy because it was finally the answer to all of the questions. How was he going to get out of this? What was that going to look like? And what I wanted right from the get-go, I'm like, I want Bruce to fight his way out of this. And that's where I'm seeing this going, is where I'm hoping this goes. And to see it, when you assume something and you think it's going to head in that direction, but then the execution is so much better than you could have possibly expected, it's just a pure joygasm.
Okay.
You look
now,
really,
you're
you
making
look really uncomfortable.
See, when you make up words, that's something. So I'm like, dang, this.
Well, it's not. I can't take credit for that. I've heard that before, so
okay.
It's not my word.
Oh,
it's not an original. The superior man thinks of evil that will come and guards against it. And I like this distinction that Batman runs through possible scenarios, and we see here that he had to follow these events through to see what skills he could use to counter them. Along the way, laying traps and counterattacks like a good game of chess. And that I was eating up. I'm like, yes, this is what I wanted from this. This is how I view Batman. He would train and plan and try to overcome a variety of attacks because you never know where they would come from. I ate this up big time.
yeah. He even said in there how he knew it was coming, but he didn't know exactly how. All he could do is just put his faith in, his training, in his preparation when it actually hit him. So that for me was a really cool statement of Batman. He's not the guy who knows everything. He's the guy who prepares for it, trusts in himself, trusts in his training, trusts in who he is, not just what he can do. And that is the strength of Batman.
I got to give compliments to Tony Daniel here because this felt very Neil Adams, very Jim Aparo, very Graham Nolan. Just, a variety of different artists who I've really enjoyed their interpretations of Batman growing up and, throughout the years. This felt like that to me, yet it was, very distinctively Tony Daniel, so it wasn't, like cookie cutter or anything, but I really liked how it gave me that kind of realistic, like, ugh. Like, when he was in that coffin, I'm just like, yeah, I want to see, dude's going to claw his way out of there.
Yeah, that was one of those vampire type, punch through the ground moments.
They had him in a straitjacket.
Yeah.
Just talk about the confidence that they had that there was a possibility he would try to escape. Just as an extra added measure, they put him in a straitjacket.
Yeah, it was straitjacket, locked, and then buried him.
Right. Have you ever only tried to do good, but found that things had just gotten worse? And these moments for me were just like, this would be frustration. You train your whole life for the purpose of trying to better Gotham, to prevent events from reoccurring for someone else. He would seek out a way to get past that. Now, I read that he was introspective. He discovered a dark place in his mind, discovered the trigger that had been put in place to a certain extent. Did you read it that way? Because after he found it, he tried to find a way to counter a potential mental attack. It wasn't that he was completely understood what was there, but that he spotted something. Did you catch that? Is that what you thought?
That's exactly how I took it. He knew the trap had been planted. He knew there was something in his mind. Mm-hmm. He didn't probably know when it was planted, but he could sense it was there, or just his own mental discipline, he knew it was there, so he had to start building up defenses for it, plan for what would happen to him. That was at the point of his whole journey to Nanda Parbat was about, just the preparation, to try to weed it out, to flush it out of him, and if not flush it out, make himself stronger for when the trap was sprung, he'd be able to deal with it.
But I like, too, that it was like an itch at the back of his head type of thing, where he discovered it there, he knew something was there, but he couldn't explain quite what it was. It was a darkness, and that is a preference to me, because I don't like the idea of, and Mark actually brought this up on the forum a while ago, because he misunderstood when we did our last conversation about Batman, saying that we assume that Batman knows every little thing and every little tiny detail of what's going to happen, and that's what happens with him. No, to me it's more so that Batman plans for eventualities. He noticed this itch, so now he's got to find a way to try to counter this, even though he doesn't know exactly in nature what it completely is, and that's what he's doing here. And I like that aspect of it. But also other events that have happened in this storyline, we see in this issue that Bruce had to go through everything because he had to see, what are they doing? What is their plan? What are they going to try to do to me? Then counter it. So that's why these events had to unfold the way they did, because he knew he was being attacked, but he didn't know the entire nature of it, so he had to pick a spot to retaliate. And I love that.
Yeah, you got to pick your target. You got to pick your time when you're going to strike. And if he had started fighting back too soon, maybe there would have been something else laid out. He needed them to lay all their cards on the table, to have them feel like they absolutely won and had full victory before he came out. And that's how I took it. He was like, he's waiting for his time. He's got to pick the right spot to strike.
I like the confidence of him in these black and white, flashback sequences, because it was something I needed at this point. I really needed to see the confident Bruce Wayne to feel confident in his retaliation. He wanted to learn if he could create a backup personality using his mind like a computer. This all stems off his childhood trauma, and he knows that that's part of it, which worked for me. That was a part of the issue as well. The bits with the T read so well the second time through, because you know how it plays out. Like the first time through, okay, I was enjoying the T bits. I'm like, okay, what's going to happen here and all that. You knew that you got the vibe that the guy on the other side of the table was not, playing for the right team, but you didn't know exactly what was going to happen. Kind of had a feeling maybe the T, but then to read it again a second time through and see how that all played out, man, it was awesome. He has 2 minutes to live as we flash to Robin. This is where we start to get the feel that we've already been reading a post-RIP world in Robin and Nightwing, because now we're seeing how these events with these two characters led up to what's been going on in their issues and their current arcs. So I like that we've already seen a progression after this event in the DC universe right now. Yeah. So it leads kind of a longer stretch to the end of the events after RIP.
Yeah, and it's thing I found very interesting, which we'll talk a little bit more about it, is when, you think about it, when was the last time each of the characters see Bruce, see Batman alive, or see Batman in action? And that really affects, I think, my reading and appreciation of the post-RIP story with Robin and Nightwing, because each one have very different opinions and very different last times they saw him. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, that's kind of neat, a little add-on extra stuff to the actual stories, their stories that I'm reading.
Which is great because Robin and Nightwing, their arcs played so nicely. They didn't reveal anything.
Right.
Other than the fact that we knew that Robin and Nightwing were getting out of this. There was no way that they weren't. But we didn't know about Bruce. And there was nothing about those stories that revealed anything about what happened here. And I liked that. Now, did you read the Detective I'm totally taking took place before this?
Yes, that's what I took as well.
The Club of Villains are still hunting him down, but now the Club of Heroes arrived to even the odds, and the first stage of the counterattack has begun. The messages that Bruce left around the DC Universe are starting to play out, and we're getting those moments. Batman and the Outsiders has been a really fun read to get an idea that Batman knew he was being attacked and needed to let that attack happen, but because of that, he wanted to let his people be put in a certain place. Like the Outsiders, he needed them to handle things in a certain manner so not to ruin what he was doing. So it was interesting how he set that up, and I'm loving those issues of Outsiders right now. Like 12 and 13 have been particularly good.
Oh, yeah.
Because it paints a different picture. You don't need to have read it to enjoy this, but it does show how he knew and put a contingency in place with them as well. Intelligence first, targeted counterattack second. The shots of the whole Club of Heroes got me really excited as we flash back to Bruce then. Black Glove was trying to take him out, but it didn't work. He switched the cups. And I like that, just saying, force a habit.
Yeah.
And you would be in those positions.
I laughed. It was like the Princess Bride scene all over again.
Oh,
you know, where you never get involved with a Cecilia when death is on the line. Thump, and a dude falls over. I was just like, I ate it up. I was
the
like,
knowing
yes.
Look in his eye.
Yeah.
You look at it, that shot of his eyes. It's one panel can for me send a high five. I was, I don't know who to high five here. I was probably, surprised there's not a hole in the wall. I was so excited when I read that. It was just a great moment. Yeah, you deliver your fear is real speech to Batman all you want. You want to play the intimidation game with Batman? Bite me, baddies. I mean, I was just like, yes. Yeah. And it's so totally that emotion. Here's another bit that I really liked. They buried him alive in a shallow grave because they wanted to exhume him later. Now talk about evil. Killing the man isn't enough. Destroying his world around him isn't enough. They want to pull him up a drooling vegetable to disfigure and humiliate him further. It goes well beyond the worst kind of like revenge or attack or whatever you want to call this. These people are sick.
Yeah, I was laughing my head off just because they're planning all this great, what they're gonna do to him. Ha ha ha! I'm just like, dudes, you guys are so getting spanked. It was just reading it. I was like, okay, come on, it's time to throw down now. Here it comes.
But this is where it's great writing because you get that feeling and that emotion at this point with the way this has been unfolding. And who lets them know? Like everything we want to say to them, who says it to them? The Joker. He's laughing at them like we are at this stage, and I loved that,
dude. I you're talking about cheering moments. I cheered when they're all taking bets and Joker's like, I got money on Batman. He's going to come out of this alive, not even fazed by what you've done to him. And they're all like, you can't bet, only members does. Oh, okay. Snap. Kills the one member of the Black Angle. Right. You got an opening now. I'm jumping in.
Wait, but you also know that he could care less about being part of the Black Glove. That was just impulsive. It served his purpose at the time. Like, he doesn't, beyond this, a Black Glove, who cares? Now, which finger of the Black Glove do you think he is at this point? I've got my bets that he was the middle finger.
Oh, yeah, dude, right there. Joker is number one.
It was great. It was a great moment. I love that he takes perverse pleasure in finding that the Bat Radio was much more than a delusion of Bruce's. He brought it for the purpose of being used to initiate a security lockdown inside of Arkham Asylum so they couldn't escape. So at some point in time, he was alert enough to have put this together.
I took that as a subconscious thing.
Right.
He knew he had this piece, but it was like one of those things where he's sitting there staring at it going, I know this is something, I don't know what it's for. Let me put it in this broken down thing, and that way it would keep him locked, his mind or his body locked onto it. But he knew it was something, but he didn't completely know what it was for. That's how I took it. It was more of a subconscious Batman thing action, not actually an active Bruce doing it.
See, that's interesting, because I took that as he did that on purpose. Completely on purpose.
And you know what? It's funny, because as you're saying, I'm not even going to argue my case, because it could very easily have been a plan on his part to, make them think I am completely off my rocker, and I have this broken down radio. But it's one of those things where I could go either way, depending on who I'm talking to, when I'm talking to the person.
When do you think he became alert again? That's kind of and I still have that question after having read this.
See, I don't know.
Do you think the whole Batman of Zen and R thing was, Zur-En-Ar thing was, it's Zur-En-Ar actually.
Yeah.
Did you think that whole Zur-En-Ar thing was a hoax on his part, acting? Or do you think that, I think he really did wind up in that place.
I think that was all real, and I think throughout this whole process, he's had moments of clarity, moments of non-clarity. It's a lot of subconscious stuff he was doing.
That was still a Batman, though.
Yeah, but that's where it's a combination of the two. And I think when he actually got locked,
so are you saying subconscious in the sense that how we saw Batmite, giving him advice and things like that?
That was
during that time. That's when he put that in there.
Yeah,
I guess we're saying. See, and I guess I can see that from that standpoint in the sense, you're not saying subconscious in that he wasn't aware that he was doing it. It was in the twisted way that he was operating at that time.
Right.
It worked through. So, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't a
happy accident.
Right.
It was done purposely.
Yeah, it was done purposely, but it was also,
so
it wasn't Bruce Wayne saying, I'm going to keep it in here to fool them.
Right.
But it was, it was like,
I don't think he was acting either. You and I are completely in sync.
Yeah, he was definitely off his rocker because of what he dealt with, but he had those defensive things keeping him locked in, and maybe his mind saw his solid locked in differently. And part of me thinks when he first went in and Batmite disappeared, that's when he started getting his clarity back. But the other part of me was thinking was,
I think it's the coffin.
The coffin, yeah. When he got locked in the coffin, that's when we start seeing the Bat Journal again. Yeah. That's when we start seeing Bruce thinking that he's writing, in the Bat Journal, and that's where we start seeing Bruce Wayne Batman.
He's rebooting.
Yeah, he just rebooted. So it's, he comes back Batman. Oh.
Yeah. And I agree. Oh, we're in complete and total agreement. That's exactly how I saw it, too. This is the true Batman, because we see him... Well, actually, let's talk about Labasu and Nightwing first. Labasu was ready to lobotomize Nightwing, and we finally get the moment where Dick takes action. I didn't care that I knew that he was escaped, because like we said before, who doubted that? But it's the delivery, and wow, did these moments with Dick Grayson play out well, because you see him snap into action, and just right away, he's reacting to the whole situation and fighting his way out. Again, I didn't care that in his book it had already been revealed, because none of us were in shock there.
Yeah, it's, the fact that he makes it out wasn't a big mystery, but it was the actions behind it. And now, how much of him do you think was acting? Do you think he was faking being unconscious, or that was the first moment he was able to move?
I think he really was unconscious at that point, but then they just waited too long.
Yeah, see?
You don't wait with a guy like that, because he's just that good.
Yeah.
I don't take it that he was acting, but he's one of those guys that you give him a moment, he will take it. And he did.
They waited too long. That was definitely those James Bond villain oopsie moments where they gave the hero a chance to get away, and he got away.
I think because of the Joker scarring Labasu and all that, it provided an opportunity for Dick to wake up and get away.
Now, here's another question. How much do you think the Joker was intentionally trying to help Batman, Nightwing, and whatnot?
I think with him, he's an agent of chaos. So for him, I don't think he was intentionally trying to do anything except enjoy the ride.
Okay. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, because he's a very impulsive... I mean, what we saw him, like when he killed the person from the Black Glove, he didn't do that because he wanted to join them. He just did that because he was reactionary to the moment. Yeah.
Like when he killed the sombrero guy a couple issues ago. Like
when they were talking about money during that whole segment. He was talking about how he's thrown away more money than they've ever had, that type of thing. It's just that's his nature. It's kind of so. No, I don't take that there was some master plan. He finds this whole thing funny to be a part of in Witness. So yeah, which I think is the case. If he had killed Batman during this, I think he would have been fine with it. But I think he finds it just as funny to watch them not be able to do, because he actually references that. Batman's always built a box around him whenever he's thought he's gotten the upper hand, and he's enjoying watching it happen to these people.
Yeah.
And he really is. He's having a good time.
I know. Those Joker moments were just absolutely just wonderful. Mm-hmm. I was seriously just going, oh my God, this is the Joker. Not just, physical look, because I still love the fact that he's got that bullet scar in his head, or even remnants of the bullet still there. I'm not sure if there's still a piece of the bullet in there, but it's just... there's something about this Joker that I'm like, damn, this is a cool guy. I really dig this.
Now, this is the true Batman, because he won't kill his enemy. He uses him instead. We see him in the cave in Nanda Parbat. It made him stronger mentally. He wants the challenge. And you get that point in here where it's this intelligent man who wants this. This fits the profile of a detective. Tell your Dark Master to make his move soon before I come looking for him. Another high-five moment. I just love the way, he broke the capsule under his nose, let it go in there because he knew, at this point, different antitoxins and things like that to handle poisons. And I'm like, oh, yeah. So the funny part is, even if he had swallowed it, he wouldn't have died. But he switched it just for the purpose of handling this moment in this manner. And I love that. Spider-Man had this fantastic story, Kraven's Last Hunt. He had to escape a similar death trap of, being... Did you ever read that? Kraven's Last Hunt?
I may have, but I don't really remember too much.
It's one I can't recommend enough. It's a wonderful, wonderful story. Fantastic art. J.M. DeMatteis is the writer on it. The artwork, I'm escaping it. It's gorgeous artwork, too, and excuse me for not... I'm just doing this off the top of my head. But it gave me a similar coolness factor. Batman's internal dialogue, to hear him alert and to be there with him. I was so ready for this. I needed this moment. and they gave it to me. He escapes another death trap, and we see this great shadowy art shot. You know, what worked about this is later, Nightwing comments about how Bruce looks like he's been pretty beat up, you know, and he's breathing hard and that type of thing. I'm glad that they acknowledged the effect that this would have. It added a reality to the whole thing for me, which kept it from being, while it was over the top, yeah, he escaped from, 600 pounds of dirt on him, he is acknowledging what he's doing all the way through this. And how that it's not impossible but incredibly difficult, and he goes through all the death traps that he's escaped, and basically showing that this man trained for these type of moments.
Yeah, those inner dialogues of Bruce was just outstanding, where he's talking about just, the straitjacket, kindergarten 11 locks, no problem. 600 pounds of dirt, yeah, that'll be difficult. But hardly impossible.
And that shot was beautiful.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful shot of him. When we get back to the Joker, we learn quick the ultimate gag. His red and black glue was nonsense. He just looked at the floor. It was the floor tile.
Yeah. It's Joker. Yeah.
And we're
all looking for big, deep. We're looking for these deep meanings behind it. And it's the Joker.
I'm just like, it makes perfect sense because of the black, and her hair and all that. It was nonsense, which makes it even funnier. He loves they couldn't do what he was able to, and he's rubbing it in their face at this point. And as they try to plan an escape, I loved seeing just Batman's eyes there. The lighter was lit by Dr. Hurt, and you can see Batman's eyes in the shadows, ready to go in. It was, that when they're talking about let's dance, and all, it's like, ooh, I'm like, yes. He's ready at this point. Ready when you are. Jezebel's twisted. She's power mad. Their fortune is much more than his. They have people everywhere. In Quantum of Solace, and I'm not going to reveal too much about that for people who haven't, but there is this group called Quantum that has similar power with people everywhere. This works here. How do you beat a billionaire? Well, you need to have more wealth and power and resources and things like that. So you get to see this moment where she's like, your money down here, our money way up here.
Yeah, it's like the conspiracy theorists, Illuminati, that run everything, yes. that secret society that runs everything. And I really like the perspective they gave because, we all look at Bruce Wayne billionaire as, this huge, massive money. He's a guy who can, finance the JLA. Well, he's kid's play compared to these people. So that was a really wow moment for me.
I love that he started to figure it out when she said that she understood. Back when there was that first reveal, we get to see this unravel from Bruce's perspective, to see the clues that he noticed that we didn't, or maybe we talked about but didn't realize he noticed even, and that was an interesting little thing about this. The attraction to the bad plays into his attraction to women like Catwoman or Talia, which totally fits here. It's a very Batman thing. They even comment on how heavy he is breathing due to what he has been through. That his endurance has reached its limit and that type of thing. Hurt at this point is still convinced he's holding all the cards.
Yeah, Hurt still thinks he won.
Yeah.
And that for me was the part I was laughing hysterically while I'm reading this going, dude, you don't understand. You've just lost.
You're done. Yeah, you're done.
It's game over, Johnny. You're done.
And that was funny, the tone shift on this one. Like, anytime Hurt was talking at this point, from the first page of this thing, when we saw him in the Batsuit, and that was the one brilliant thing about switching him to that multicolored outfit last issue, to see him this issue back in the main suit, it changed the whole tone for me. Like, I knew it was over for them. I'm like, they're done. They are done. It's over. Bruce is in the Batsuit. He's going to win. Game over.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about this, because this whole thing was like, you talk about your hoorah, this whole issue was a hoorah for me all the way through. Because of that. That tone shift was brilliant. When Jezebel's stepdad was murdered years after, he won her and her mother, I mean, those reveals there. She, was put into position by the Black Glove. He was killed. And even though Bruce fell for her, he holds his own when she tries the verbal warfare. And Alfred's acting lessons, I don't know about you, that had a double meaning for me, because he revealed in his inner dialogue that he did fall for her, but when he's talking to her, I think he's using the acting lessons there, and he did a great job. I really liked that.
Yeah, completely. That was just a great mind job he did on her. Yeah. Talking about, he took the only thing she truly valued, and that was that letter from her mother, and completely took that, and now she will never have that again.
But then she was trying to dangle over him the love that he had for her, and he made it.
Yeah.
He took that away from her as well. Even though internally there was that. There was still that part of him, and I liked that. Bruce and Nightwing battled together in a moment that was really cool. I loved the dialogue. You never let me down, did you? That one moment from Bruce. They have a certain moments together that really make me smile. This was one of them. I was like, ugh. Important dialogue here. The truth is, I knew I was under attack, but I could only guess how it would play out. Trust preparation to see me through, and rely on my allies to keep up. And that was an interesting little thing at this point. This is the man who learned in Bruce Wayne Murderer and Fugitive that he needed to trust those around him. This is the man who we saw change his ways in 52, post-Infinite Crisis. And Face the Face, when that whole storyline kicked off, we saw a different tone shift there as well. This dialogue makes me feel the sense of progression. This is that same man. This is what makes Batman so good. When writers understand how to give us those moments where we feel like, forget the masks of Bruce Wayne and Batman, where we feel like we're there with the real person. And that's what I felt like in these moments. We get them rarely with Batman because of his nature as a character, but when we get them and they're written well, it's ooh.
Yeah. And one of the things I was talking about a little bit earlier, you see now here, Nightwing is fighting alongside Bruce. He's fighting alongside Batman. Right. Tim never got this opportunity. No. Tim never showed up and never got a chance to. Only thing he shows up is the ending of R.I.P. He doesn't get this chance to see Bruce come back. Bruce be Bruce Wayne, be Batman.
Right.
And it definitely plays out in how Tim is handling the situation, and as compared to how
his story arc.
Yeah.
His story arc is definitely a darker story than the one we're getting from Nightwing right now in his. And it does fit the way this unfolds. I didn't think of that. That's really a good point. So that's even more kudos to Fabian Nicieza and to Peter Tomasi and what they're doing right now and how they're writing those storylines. They play so well off the ending to this that we haven't read yet. I actually now want to go back and reread both arcs post-reading this issue now and really kind of delve into how cool that was written. Oh, that's neat. I'm glad you pointed that out. The Club of Heroes did their own investigation under Mayhew, and this led them here where they found, after they had found out that all the actors and people who worked on the movie had vanished. So they knew that there was, there's something more going on here. Okay, a moment I really liked with Damian, which is, Damian can be such an annoyance, which he's supposed to be, but he took out the Joker. Do you think he knew that the Joker was in the ambulance?
No idea. He was just...
Okay.
He was just racing to Arkham Asylum to do whatever he was going to do there.
Right.
So, and it just, because he's like, an ambulance? Alfred's like, Master Damian, that was a ambulance. Right. What ambulance? He was just enjoying driving the Batmobile.
Which does fit him.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'd be happy one way or another. I'm not sure on this one because it does fit Damian. If anybody else was behind the wheel, I'd be pissed. But with Damian, I'm kind of like, okay, it works. Do you think my father will let me keep the car? And, just in that moment, Alfred is like the ultimate straight man. He works so well. Where this starts to work for me is, though, number one person who knows the identity is down. We now have an opportunity, even if the Joker shows up again, to use what happened in this event to explain possibly why the Joker doesn't remember. All right? Now, I'm not saying that's how they're going, but okay. We're taking care of the identity issue, number one. This is really important because when I did my second read through of this, I started thinking to myself, okay, my big concern here is the identity. How are they going to cover the identity reveal here? So we get to Hurt. Hurt explains that they tried to undermine his reasons to be, put the trigger phrase all over, and wanted to get him to give up being Batman. Now, did you read that they kind of lowered crime a little bit to make him less useful? What was going on? Is that how you read that?
Yeah, because if you remember when he went to... when he first met Jezebel Jet, when he left the country, things were at a kind of a lull. There was he could take a break as Batman.
Right.
So they did that intentionally to get him to kind of let his guard down a little bit. Maybe start doubting whether, hey, maybe I'm not needed anymore. Introduce the love. Introduce, somebody...
Saying, I know you better than anybody kind of thing at that moment. I really liked that. Bruce figured out Hurt was Mangrove Pierce and that he was framed for murder by Mayhew. So that all's coming in here. The info on the Wayne family and Alfred was faked to blackmail Bruce into serving them. A trump card? Is that what you read that as? Kind of like a trump card?
Well, he tried, and you never deal with terrorists, and Batman's not going to deal with blackmailers. Right.
But I don't think it was just a trump card. I think he planned to use that as just a smear campaign to destroy everything that Batman ever was. To destroy his good name because Hurt's name was destroyed. Yeah. Mangrove Pierce's whole name was destroyed in that moment where he was being framed. So he wanted to do the same thing to Bruce as well, framing his family.
Yeah, you figure if the reason Bruce does the Batman thing is because of his family, is because of his father, because of his mother. So you destroy that piece.
And Alfred on top of it.
And Alfred on top of it.
Bruce is defiant, and we see a beautiful sequence where they fight on the helicopter before it explodes. In my attempts to see clearly in the deepest dark, in my efforts to go to the still eye of the storm or madness, did I open myself up to some pure source of evil? Did I finally reach the limits of reason and find the devil waiting? And was that fear in his eyes? Now, did you take that devil to be something inside Bruce? Or, because I kind of took it as he's saying Mangrove Pierce is that evil. I have seen the ultimate evil here, because look at all Pierce did. How far he was willing to go to destroy Bruce. It wasn't just a matter of killing the man. He could have killed the man and be all done. It wasn't killing the man. It was destroying everything that was important to him. The whole world. It didn't matter about innocence or anything at this point. Whoever he had to take out to really destroy everything that mattered to Bruce. That's evil. But in that moment, at the helicopter, when Bruce is looking him in the face, that would be fear. You know, at that moment, the black glove always wins, but did it?
Yeah, he's like yeah, I love that. That was just a great. He's like the house always wins, the black glove always wins, and just.
But it didn't,
no,
because he took Bruce to hell and tried to destroy everything around him. And at this point, the helicopter blows up. So whether Bruce is dead or not, the important point is at this point, because of what Bruce did here, everything that Mangrove Pierce tried to destroy didn't get destroyed. The opportunity is there for his allies to fix all of that. So there was nothing that's been laid out, including the good name of the Wayne family. So it's interesting. Robin covers the conspiracy right away, and I liked that because we needed to see that right after this moment, that he, even though he saw his mentor blow up, essentially at that point in time, I liked that he was alert enough to tell Gordon about the conspiracy. Talia promises vengeance, and, okay, I'm going to say something. Dick holding the cowl looks really good to me. When I saw him standing there holding that, I still feel we're going to wind up with Bruce as all is said and done, and that's ultimately what I want. But if we're looking for an heir, and that's where the story goes, I'm throwing my name in the hat right now, Dick Grayson. That's the one. If there was one, when I saw that moment, I'm like, and I've been one of the big ones that have been saying it. I'll admit this 100%. Nightwing has got his own identity, and that whole shtick that I've been saying all along, one moment threw that out the window for me. I'm like, okay, I could handle seeing him put on the cowl again like he did in Prodigal. But at this point in time, we've got further progression. At this point, I would gladly see it. I want Bruce still. I'm going to say that out there. And my firm feeling is still the end result of this is we're going to get Bruce back. But I
got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Final Crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've been trying to rack my brain, see if I remember ever seeing Nightwing during Final Crisis. I
thought we saw him during some of those moments. I know for a fact Morrison's already said that that the next two issues are supposed to lead up to Final Crisis, to show how Bruce gets in the cowl, and the final fate of Bruce Wayne's revealed in Final Crisis.
Oh, okay.
So my understanding is that is Bruce in Final Crisis. Although, we'll see.
Yeah, I know. It's because that was just something that I was running through my head. What if that was never Bruce actually in Final Crisis? And I couldn't remember if I saw Nightwing during any of those Final Crisis
And I'm
tie-ins.
fine if he totally swerved us there, too.
Yeah.
My feeling at this point is it's not a swerve. That is Bruce Wayne. But I would be fine to find out otherwise.
And talk about how cool would that be, though. You find out that that's Dick Grayson.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you right now at the moment. I thought we saw Nightwing already in Final Crisis.
I don't remember,
yeah.
but we may have. Like in one of the Resist or Submit or one of the crossovers. Yeah. We didn't see him in the main title. I know that, but maybe in one of the crossovers.
But if he was Batman, why would he... Well, first of all, how could he maintain that identity? Because Batman was captured.
Right. That's
what
I'm saying. The guy captured, maybe that wasn't Bruce Wayne captured. And then at the end of Final Crisis...
But we saw him in Last Will and Testament with Bruce.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, true. Okay.
And I'm assuming Last Will and Testament takes place during all this.
Okay. So there's the... Okay.
Depending on where you read Last Will and Testament taking place, that would mean Bruce was back in the cowl.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure on the time placement of that. Because there's nothing in Last Will and Testament that definitely designates it as taking place during Final Crisis.
Yeah, it is. I think it does.
I do too, but I'm saying realistically, if you're trying to wrap your head around it, you could place it kind of... you would almost have to place that before Bruce was captured, right?
Yeah, I think Last Will and Testament, I think we're going to get some changing, and then there'll be another... I think Final Crisis is going to have two massive battles. And I think Last Will and Testament will happen before the second battle.
So you think Last Will and Testament may not have happened yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're going to have this patch where right now we have evil winning, and I think there's going to come like a neutralization and then another assault.
Does Last Will and Testament...
I'm not sure.
Does Last Will and Testament have to take place during Final Crisis? I don't remember. I guess the point I'm trying to make with that is, I'm trying to remember one event in Last Will and Testament that makes it that it has to take place during a certain point in Final Crisis, and I don't remember anything in it, other than that we got to see a bunch of people during when we were reading Final Crisis, who were having these moments together. At the end of it all, I don't know. I mean...
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. So it's interesting. I don't know. I'm curious to see when that, because I guess I'm not sure time placement on Last Will and Testament. That's something for the forum. I'll throw it out there for the forum. Anybody out there in the forum or voicemails, if you want to call this in, do you have events in Last Will and Testament that made you think it took place during a certain point in time? At the moment, I'm pretty open on the time placement on this. I don't think we've read anything that makes me feel like it has to take place in this issue, or it has to take place here. So I don't know. I don't know if anyone... It was a very contained issue in my eyes that was very well written, but there was nothing in there that I felt that had to take place during an exact, specific set point in time. But maybe I'm missing something, because I'm trying to ramble this off the top of my head, and I'm not sure. So it's a good thing. Let's throw it out to the listeners. What did you guys see? Talk about it on the forum along with this episode, the episode 141 thread, and let us know through voicemails or things like that if you want to get it on the show as well. I'd be interested to. That's an interesting point. Jezebel uses her diplomatic immunity to escape, and we find that Talia takes her down, and that's who was on the phone, right?
That's I first
Talia's
time read through, I
resources?
had no idea what they were doing, and then I'm like, I realized it later.
Well, the Man-Bats were
Right.
the ones from her storyline in the
Right.
beginning of Morrison's run. So that was
Her
clearly
plane's
her.
down, and she's probably dead.
Well, that was the vengeance she was talking about.
Right.
She said, "We will handle this. I am the mother of Batman's son. I'll take care of the vengeance here," and she did.
Now, do you think she took out, who took out, what's his name, the Hunchback dude?
Well, I'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
Because we're getting to that. Labasu is all that's left. Who knows the secret? At least that's how I'm reading it. And remember at the beginning, there was that moment where Batman and Robin will not die? Remember the very first panel of R.I.P. was the two of them standing there?
Yeah.
Did we just see the lead into that? Because remember, there was that single panel that didn't lead into anything. It showed Batman and Robin. The team of Batman and Robin will not... It was something along those lines, those words, will not die. And then it flashed in the beginning of the story. That panel did not lead into anything. Do you think now we just led into that panel?
I think we just led into that panel.
So we're going to see what happens to, I'm guessing, what happens to Labasu.
After we have the whole fight for the cowl, the battle for the cowl.
Or the next two issues.
Right, or something.
I know the next... I think it's the next storyline is supposed to explain to us. There's a 2-issue storyline supposed to come up that's supposed to lead us into Final Crisis and the final fate of Bruce Wayne. So, at least that's the way it's been presented, but, maybe we're going to find out more. Maybe a lot of what they were revealing was to cover up what's really happening. I don't know. And I don't need to know right now. I'm enjoying this ride so much. I don't want it to be go for it. Let's just go for it.
Let's see what
what's gonna
happens. Yeah.
I'm open to a number of possibilities. My thinking right now is that it wasn't a hoax, that this will reveal what happens with Bruce Wayne. I'm hoping that Bruce Wayne winds up in the battle for the cowl wearing the cowl again.
Yeah.
If it's not Bruce, my pick, though, is Dick Grayson, with Tim Drake being Robin.
And you know what? I don't have a problem with that. I've always said that Tim is the heir apparent, but I wouldn't mind at all Nightwing, donning the cowl and continuing on and being the next Batman or holding on to it for as long as he needs to or whatnot. I don't know. I still think we're going to get Bruce Wayne. I still think when everything is said and done, he is Batman. I don't think people are ready to let go of that.
Did you catch at the end? They went back through, they did the whole Zorro thing and all that stuff. Zorro and Arkham, Zur-Nar.
Yeah.
They flashed it through.
You know what? It took me a minute. I'm like, oh my God, I don't.
And they
even,
I think they deliberately put it backwards on the bottom of the page
so you
to
can
draw
see
your
it.
attention to
Yeah.
it. But that was very cool. That was very cool. Which I am so glad that they didn't smear the Wayne family and that they kept that. I was worried that we might be heading down that route. And I was trying to in my head, okay, let me, how am I going to feel about that if they go and they do that? This was so perfect for me because I said this back in the beginning of it. What I really want to see is Bruce Wayne fight his way back, to see Batman beat them. To be put through this horrible thing, but then find his way back. And we just need, this is the moment where we see a hero overcoming impossible odds. And just, and when it's, in my case, Batman's my guy, it's, and to see him do this, I'm like, yes. I don't care if it's Adam West or, if it's the current stuff, it's like, there's something about this guy. It's why I get so passionate about him. Like, people say, well, All-Star Batman, why? Because I'm not identifying with him, and that bugs me when it's Batman. And it's a brain freeze of my own. These are those moments, though, where I'm identifying with him right now, and I love this. It's great. Questions I want answered out of this. The identity issue. What does the Joker know? Because he saw him with the cowl off. So, right?
Yeah, I'm still going to stick with my original thing I said before, that Joker has known all along that Bruce Wayne is Batman. And he found out during the Death in the Family, that scene when he's right in the UN and he sees Bruce's face and he starts laughing. Mm-hmm. I think right then and there is when the Joker realized that Bruce Wayne was Batman. And
he thinks it's funny.
He thinks that nobody knows, and that he knows, and he doesn't need to use it, because why bother? What would Joker gain out of using that knowledge? It's not his style.
Hypothetically, I agree with you. So this isn't contradicting you as much as me saying storyline-wise now, the way it's been written, though, I've taken it as writers have typically been assuming the Joker doesn't know. I mean, we could get geeky and talk about that, and I'll agree with you at that moment. I agree with you. That moment, they knew.
Yeah, they knew who each other was.
Uncomfortable. Yeah. That was a very uncomfortable moment for Bruce, and I really liked that because the inner dialogue was priceless. So I can go with that, too, and I can agree with you 110%. But I don't think that's canon in the sense that it's being used here. I would be fine if they geeked us out and used that as an explanation later and just saying the Joker's keeping it secret because he finds the whole thing funny. I'm like, all right, I can handle that. I can go with that. I'm guessing the ambulance going off the side of the bridge was not an accident. I think that was put in for storytelling purposes, because they deliberately have taken out everybody right now except for Labasu, which I'm trying to remember. Labasu, he was there in the cave, right? When
Labasu knew. I think all of the 5 members of the Glove knew. Mm-hmm. So Joker kills the one.
He killed 2.
Yeah, Joker killed 2 of them.
Right.
The Hurt, or whatever his name is, whatever you want to call him, Labasu,
Mango Pierce,
Jezebel.
Right.
So I think that's who
they're all down and out, with the exception of Labasu.
Right.
Okay. And Joker, obviously they didn't kill Joker. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, and you know what? You figure the fact that Joker got shot in the head, and he's been walking around with a brain injury. Yeah, I wouldn't have an issue with him not remembering.
No, they've given us a very good storytelling reason to explain in the future why he doesn't know. So I'm fine at this point. So they've left us with a pretty good scenario, except for Labasu, with why the identity's safe at this point. I guess you can't help when the identity's been revealed in a storyline to talk about, is it out there or are we done? And right now, I think, except for Labasu and the Joker, those are the only 2 wild cards. Am I right?
Right.
Okay. So, interesting. What did you think of this storyline? Because it was funny. When it started off, I was very confused, and I was a little lukewarm at the start, but then you can hear in our episodes when we really started getting heavily into it, when things started clicking as far as realizing this is a brain attack and that's what we were, this mental attack is what we were going through. That's when I started to get more excited, certainly. Overall, RIP as a whole, how did you feel about all this?
C+. Seriously. Okay, seriously.
How does this rank for you as a Batman storyline?
This ranks as one of the top ones I've read. And here's the strength of this story for me. One, it hasn't completely answered all the questions.
No.
There are still some outstanding, but it wasn't one that it was spoon-fed, cookie-cutter, fed to you. You still have to think about it. We still have to talk about it to figure every piece out. And because Batman is the world's greatest detective, I don't think his story should be spoon-fed to you. I think you should have to think about it when you read it. And from beginning to end of this story, you had to stop and look at it. You had to reread it. Look at the clues that was presented to you. Try to figure it out as you go along. The best detective stories that you read, you don't learn, who the villains are until like the end, or even if then. Even if then, there may be some doubt in your mind. Did they actually do it? Hold on, wait a minute, what about this? Those are some of the coolest stories for me, so this definitely left a lot of stuff open. Still, we didn't get the full answer. We have a pretty good understanding on what's going on. We're, pretty confident that Bruce lived through this. Just from the story arc, what they told us, what we saw, we kind of have a pretty good grip on who knows and who doesn't know his secret.
We haven't seen a body.
Right. Now there is the whole Pierce, what happened to his body? Did he survive? If Bruce was able to survive the helicopter exploding,
I'm guessing because Bruce was outside the helicopter, though, that gives him better odds.
Right.
Where Pierce was inside it.
Right. So who knows? That's a whole other big question.
If I'm going to be involved with an exploding helicopter, my choice would be outside it.
Yeah.
My choice would be to be on an island way far away from it.
Right.
But I mean,
my choice would be Robin sitting on the deck watching it explode.
If I'm given a perimeter that I've got to be in, I'm going to choose the farthest point. Where maybe the explosion could, throw me away or something like that. I don't know. I'm interested to see how this is explained, because I could easily see this. I guess I was seeing the possibility he could have blown up real good.
Yeah. So
I don't know. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this goes. I will say, and one of the things that I liked about this is that Robin and Nightwing, I know editorial-wise, obviously those stories were modified to follow, their current arcs were modified to follow what was going on in RIP, but I did like that they were given the freedom to tell their own stories post-RIP, and that's the way that they went. Because I do think that they were stronger stories because they were not like part 4 of RIP, then continuing back into Detective.
Right.
I'm a fan of that when all the writers are on board and it kind of fits, but being that this was a Morrison story, it made sense to have Morrison write this, to do a Detective Comics prequel of sorts that explains Bruce's attraction to bad girls when you see Catwoman and how that all plays out, which was brilliant. I thought it was a really cool story. It plays into then Jezebel's moments here, with that whole Heart of Hush storyline, and I really liked that. But then, it was a good contained story that does lead into elements here. And then you've got Robin and Nightwing, which come right afterwards and kind of fill in what Gotham's looking like right now without them. I didn't catch the tone. I'm glad that was brilliant that you caught the Robin tone and how that
I have
fits
my
in this.
moments.
You do, yeah, you do. Our next review is going to be Seven Soldiers of Victory, Volume 3, our second part of this discussion. The writers Grant Morrison, art by Freddie E. Williams II, Fraser Irving, Pasquale Ferry, Ryan Sook, Mick Gray, Yannick Pequet, Serge LaPont, Doug Monkey, Billy Dallas Patton, Michael Baer, Dave Stewart. Colors by Dave McKeag, Nathan Earing, Alex Sinclair, John Calitz. Letters by Pat Brousseau, Jared K. Fletcher, Phil Balsman, Nick J. Napolitano. Peter Tomasi was the editor. Michael Siglain, the associate editor, and Anton Kawasaki, the editor of the collected edition. Woo! It's a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
Jim, we're going to kick this right off with Frankenstein #1. And the story kicks off with Frankenstein and a younger Melmoth. The strength of this series is that it fills in the history of the villains through the various arcs that we've been reading. The problem with chasing around a character like Melmoth is that it never ends. I mean, that's just an ongoing thing. Frankenstein is a tragic and lonely story. He was a created being that can't die. He chases a guy that essentially can't die. It's a never-ending cycle. It's definitely a cool story with a Terminator-like feel. I enjoyed the story, so don't get me wrong in my comments, but anytime I read superhero stories, I think to myself, would I want to be this character or anything like that? I like him for a backup on any team that I'm on because he wouldn't quit in the worst danger, but I would not want to be him. If he was on my team, more than likely I would try and help him find another purpose besides hunting Melmoth because he's in a trap.
Yeah. Yeah, I really digged the Frankenstein story, and it was funny, I missed a lot of stuff that when I first did my notes, I didn't completely connect the connection to Sheeta and all that type of stuff, and even Melmoth, I missed it the first time through. I'm going through my notes the second time going, hello, Melmoth, that's the main cheetah bad guy. He's been fighting this guy forever. Duh. And it was
the husband of the queen.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I completely missed it.
And that is one of the nice things, is that this series does have a rich history to it that's developed throughout it. The book takes us quickly from 1925 to today, and I'm starting to think certain elements of the Cheetah are like parasites, preying on the weaknesses of people. Again, this theme of stealing hope. Would you want the power of telepathy, Jim? Because it would be really cool to be able to read people's thoughts, but would you want to know what your friends and family are thinking, for example? What if they were having a bad day and thought something negative about you? I think it would be a cool power, but you would really need to be disciplined and sure of yourself to handle it. You'd have to find the good and bad within people's thoughts to keep some balance, and you'd have to be open to the fact that, okay, people are going to think certain things, but that's not the whole story. And the only reason why this came to mind with this kid, we're left with this first panel of him, ugly, 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 ugly. He's hearing everybody's thoughts. Would you want that power?
You know what? Telepathy is the power that I would only want if I had complete control over it. I could pick when I'm reading somebody, not have it open like this. Mm-hmm. The HBO show, True Blood, the main female character, she can read people's thoughts. And you constantly see how it drives her nuts because the images, random images that people have, the perverted, disgusting images that she gets, even just the general, inner turmoil that people are going through. She sees all of this, and this kid also saw all of this. It would be a tough thing to deal with, and I often think there's a lot of people that I work with that I wouldn't want to see, just walk up to them, or even when I was in high school, people that I knew in high school or college, that when I walk up to them, I wouldn't want them to think, oh, God, here's this idiot again. Oh, don't talk about comics. Don't get him talking about comics. Because I know there are people I annoy with my comic talk. I know for a fact I do it. But it's still, I wouldn't want to see them thinking, that I'm an idiot or I'm a jerk or something.
I'm one of those people you annoy with your comic talk, Jim. It's comics all the time. Comics. It's enough already, Jim. It's like sometimes you and I on the phone, it's hard to get us to stop.
I know.
Well, you know what? And a lot of times we got to catch ourselves because there's certain things we don't want to say on the phone to each other because we'd rather air it on the show without knowing what we were going to say. It was funny when I was thinking of this telepathy thing. I was thinking about Heroes this season. Are you caught up on Heroes this season?
Kind of. I missed the last.
I'm going to just keep it general. I mean, this will be like, I'll go back to season 1, and I'll use this as an example, because there's stuff from this season that I could use as an example for Matt Parkman, but I'll go back to season 1. Remember with his wife?
Yeah.
There's certain things that it was, like, very bad to know what was going on, because, he found out about her affair and all kinds of other stuff that was going on through, that telepathy.
Yeah, it's...
And that's been one of the things that I've liked about that show, is it portrays kind of a real aspect of how the powers are cool and how they've been effective for him, but also the negative side of having that power. The development of the story of the nerdy kid was great. He feels alone and isolated and knows that not only outwardly, but inside that most feel he's ugly, which is kind of the worst part. Because people say things a lot of times and they don't mean it, they're just joining into the crowd. They're actually feeling that way. It's sad because he latches onto the one girl that shows him kindness. He sees her as pure. And you so knew where this was heading, but I definitely enjoyed the ride. He reminded me of, we were talking about Quasimodo with Labasu, but this guy reminded me of Quasimodo from Hunchback in his story, because it's kind of got that, she's like Esmeralda.
Yeah.
The one person in the crowd who, sees something more from him, although, it certainly doesn't go that way. The worst part about cruelty is people usually breed it in others because they turn on you if you rebel against it. Tease her as being in love with him and that kind of thing. Each of the students has their own insecurities, and they take them out on this poor kid, and it read very middle and high school to me. I was like, all right, this is very real. This is what happens. Even her boyfriend, whom she confides in, sees this kid as being ugly head, and his response is telling. A lot of times people get caught in that trap because it's something to do, because that was how he referred to it as. It's something to do, and they don't know how to get out of it. It is a trap, I think. Where he doesn't even know why he's even saying it.
It's, a lot of titles for it, peer pressure or whatever you want to call it. It's just that thing you do. You get caught up in the moment. You're in with that in crowd, and if you don't stick with what they're doing, they're going to turn on you. Mm-hmm. And I really liked when we're seeing him look into their minds, seeing all these insecurities that these quote-unquote popular, people who have everything easy to them, that pick on poor ugly head.
Right.
they have their same type of stereotypes. They have their same insecurities about themselves, that they think they're ugly, they think they're fat, or they think they're this and whatnot. I liked seeing that whole negative side to inside, and it was a cool just roll around play out.
I really felt for this kid, though, because there's a fine line between ball busting and cruelty. The difference is that ball busting, the other person knows that you're full of it. Or if you catch that, like, maybe the person doesn't, you acknowledge it and you say something and just say, hey, I was only kidding. And that type of thing.
Yeah.
That's the difference. There isn't one person walking up to this kid saying, I'm just pulling your leg. Nobody did that. So I'm like, and that's cruelty right at that point in time, because nobody is, this kid's not laughing and he's not playing back. So nobody at this point is concerned about his feelings and all that. It's classic horror movie in its feel, that you feel very little sympathy for the crowd of students, even with their insecurities. You kind of root for the nerdy kid and the girl who's being nice to him, but have no qualms with the misfortune happening to everyone else. I had no attachment to anybody else.
It was those moments where you're like, oh yeah, they're all going to die, and I'll probably laugh when I see them do it.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting how Melmoth is using these kids as a new breed of maggots. Butterflies start out as maggots, then change, that type of thing. And the sheet is playing off her own weaknesses. The girl lives with the constant fear of being ugly. Now, did you play it as, like, when these kids change and morph, is that what the Sheeta are riding into battle? Or is it that the Sheeta change and then they mount other steeds or something like that? I wasn't sure, because they're turning into Sheeta, right? Is that what you're...
It was Sheeta or minions or something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't actually take them that they were creating the mounts for the Sheeta.
Okay.
But I took it as
because when they said they turned into butterflies...
Right.
I guess I was taking it as, because of the wings and everything, they went in the mouths. But I might be wrong. I might be totally wrong on this. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on that statement.
See, I'm not sure either.
I definitely took it as the Sheeta needed to latch onto these people in order to use them as a way for them to, like, molt and change and turn into the Sheeta that we're more used to. They are like parasites, though. They latched onto this kid, and then he was a catalyst to jump onto the other's fears, breaking down their resistance. As humans, we all have insecurities. We all have strong areas of confidence, but then Achilles heels. This would be so easy to pull off. It read very real, and that added to the creep factors. I'm like, I would tumble to this. Yeah. I would. We both would.
Yeah.
I'd be like a drooling idiot with, like, a sack on my back.
Well, that's an image. That's an image in my head.
There you go. Well, I saw you with it too, so I... The girl and her date show up to the dance to find everyone else being overtaken. Even during all this, she tries to be nice to the kid when her boyfriend refers to him as uglyhead. So even all this nonsense is, like, the place is really creepy. She comments on how the light's being off. It doesn't feel right. She still, has that kind of wiring where she's willing to stand up for him.
I did chuckle, though. And once again, we get another prom that gets ruined by some type of thing.
Yes.
You got Carrie, you got Buffy, you got all the various hacker slasher movies where I'm like, what is it with prom, man? Can't we just leave prom alone? Let prom be a nice, joyful moment in time in someone's life? Why do we got to ruin it every time?
It's true.
Can we protect?
I love that you're acting like our prom, though, because we were at prom. Our prom didn't have anybody get murdered, Jim.
We did?
You're acting like this is a common occurrence at proms everywhere. No, it's in movies.
Oh, okay.
That's not reality. You're making we gotta leave prom alone. And sometimes as comic fans to take a stand for prom.
Sometimes reality and the comic book universe kind of get meshed into me. I was completely thinking this was our prom. I fully remembered, larvae coming out of people's backs.
Is that because of that sack image?
Yeah, I got caught up in the moment. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't get my deposit back for the tux. It's like, we see that in spite of his cruelty, he's willing to give his life for his girlfriend, the boyfriend. I really got, at this point, I'm like, okay, he wasn't actually such a bad guy. I probably need a queen to breed with when I take over. Would that be okay? I was waiting for him to start slicking the front of his hair to the side to make himself look more presentable. Because there's that one moment where I'm just like, a total creep factor here. The sad part here is that he doesn't realize he's being used and is going to wind up a maggot like the rest. He has no future.
Yeah, he's toast. It's he's not Sheeta. They're the maggots. They're the puppets. They're the pawns. They're the foot soldiers that they send in to get slaughtered. So it's no big deal. You're just a tool for them.
To tell you how sometimes I get too drawn into comics, though, like, this one, I got so emotionally drawn to this poor kid's story, Uglyheads, that, like, I was angry at a certain point. I'm like, where were the school officials to help him? Because, like, obviously this kid at this point in time is being traumatized. Where's the guidance counselor pulling him in and that type of thing? Because I know, how schools work. And, like, where was the intervention for this kid? Where was the advocate for this kid? That's the job of teachers and people like that to, take him aside and try to do that. I'm like, where were these people looking up for this kid? So I got way too drawn into this story. Sort of way overthinking it. Here's a question I have. As she escapes with no one to save her, Frankenstein pops up. He shows a nobleness about him, but he also seemed to long for, like, a rest. Something left undone has awakened him, and that's kind of that issue I got. Now, here's the question I have for you. Did the kid deserve the beating to death at the hands of Frankenstein, or was he under the influence of the Sheeta? Did you think he died?
Well, I don't know. Frank had to stop him, so he had to do what he had to do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but what if he just cut the Sheeta off of him?
Well, that probably would have worked as well. Yeah, come think of it, Frank, you kind of messed up there. Yeah, you went a little overboard there, pal.
Or, Frank's kind of an end justifies the means kind of guy. It's done.
Here's something I noticed and I was wondering about.
Uh-huh.
When Frank first makes his appearance, she hits him with the taser, which kind of recharges his batteries, which I kind of thought was funny.
Right.
But why did she bring a taser to her prom? What was she thinking? Maybe her boyfriend would not take no for an answer? And she just wanted to be prepared for that?
Although you did see that he went by shocking. Maybe he likes it. Yeah. He was pretty comfortable, because I'm not quite sure what that did when he went up and grabbed those things and died.
Well, he fried the maggots.
Okay.
So he sacrificed himself to fry the maggots, but still.
But if Frank was going to burn the place anyway, he died for nothing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. As he was digging the graves and the building was burning, do you think he salted the earth so nothing else would grow there too? Or do you think that would have been going too far for Frank? Because, Frank just seems to be kind of that, like, I gotta take it as far as I possibly can kind of guy. Like, I was surprised he didn't have Epsom salt out there and was dumping it all over the place. Like, this area is done.
Hey, you know what? You gotta cover. And even Frank comments about how, maggots probably got away. So he's got to do more than just destroy that building.
Sure.
He's got to level that entire town, that entire region. He's going to make sure he stops.
Where is Frank going to stop?
I don't know.
Now, I did wonder, do you think that she becomes Lady Frankenstein that we see in later issues? Was this her origin? Because she talks about being Girl Frankenstein, but you remember that after this Frank story where it goes, does she become Lady Frankenstein?
I don't think so. I didn't think so. I thought Lady Frankenstein was already developed. But you know what? When I'm going to reread those issues.
But if you think about the time placement and all this, I don't know.
That could be.
So that'll be interesting to see. We'll talk about it more when we get Volume 4. But because I don't want to say too much about it, but there is, that's something to consider. So he warns her to tell any Sheeta or Dark Melmoth that he is coming for them. And this just ended cool. Dark Horse published some solid Terminator comics that tied into the films years ago when they were heavy on the Alien and Predator stuff. That was kind of like their big thing. And this had that vibe, of the really good Terminator stuff they were doing over there. Frankenstein lives, and I want to see more. I really do. I enjoyed this issue.
Hold on.
I'm joking. Go ahead.
Hold on, that dialogue.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
Tell them they have in their folly awakened my vengeance. Tell them I will find them and make hammers fall upon them like a rain. Tell them Frankenstein lives. Dude, that was a statement of it's time. I'm going to open up a on you right now. I was like, ooh.
But to tell you how bitter this nice girl was, she wants to hang out with and be like, Kid Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Mr. Miracle #2. Now, here's where we see that art shift. And I was really impressed because none of the mood or tone was lost. It's got to be hard to follow someone who's done, like, the first issue of a mini, because they set kind of a pace and tone and everything like that. And the art team did a really good job. To me, it felt like it flowed right from the first issue. Life is a race, death is the black racer, and no one escapes the black racer. Wow, Metron and the Black Racer. It's a compliment to the art that these two look just as powerful, and in some ways more powerful, in their human hosts, as opposed to how we usually see them. The way that they visually carry themselves in posture in the wheelchairs, they look like gods playing for the life of Shiloh Norman. Because we do see them at a certain point in time where we don't see them in God mode, and there's a very different way, and there's a weakness to them almost in that mode. But in this moment, where Metron's confident, we see a Metron, he was very powerful looking. and very confident
Right.
looking. I noticed that, and it was interesting to see him that way. The car comes crashing down on him, and we see the escape artist use his tricks to survive. Shiloh's being tested here to see if he's a worthy being for what I'm guessing to be the savior of the new gods, and if he's ready for Darkseid. And I like that this is pulled from a future where they are defeated. It really reads like a Final Crisis prequel, and I'm enjoying exploring this in a different way now that I'm reading Final Crisis. Like, I don't know how this worked for you. When I read this through this time, it read very different with Final Crisis going on right now.
Big time. There was definitely that whole, new god feel to it, and you're seeing, okay, this is where they are, this is how they're hiding out after the whole death of the new gods thing. It's just, definitely this whole series has a different read through and a different feel to it.
Yeah. I definitely encourage you, if you're a listener who is just listening to this segment, you read Seven Soldiers ages ago, pick out at least the Mr. Miracle issues and reread those just to kind of see if you get that kind of vibe and experience if you're reading Final Crisis right now. He's being chased by living cars and drive-bys, kind of like a metaphor, inventing all kinds of new words, kind of like a metaphor for death that you have no control over. Can Shiloh survive that? Because drive-by, it's something you can't plan for. You can't, put safety nets. But and that's kind of the cool part about this whole thing. This escape artist seems to plan for everything.
He bobs and weaves. It's, he's like a Jackie Chan movie. Where,
he is.
He's just, how the heck did he do that? It's that kind of action to it.
I do like that concept that all things are temporary. Life does change. I think that the strength of humanity is that we constantly strive to make our mark, to do things that will make us be remembered. It's not how much time you have, but what you do with it, which is another cool comics message. I do think that's a strength of comics that's portrayed a lot. Shiloh is freedom's spirit, and I love his confidence. He escapes the car crashing towards him by slipping into the manhole cover, and he so did it with style. At that moment, any form of fear is totally away from him. He's just moving. It's instinct. While Metron and the Black Racer come off as adversaries in this game of chess, it does seem like the Black Racer isn't against Shiloh winning. He wants to see if he can win, not that he wants him to lose. Did you get that vibe?
Yeah, it wasn't a boo-ha-ha-ha-ha type thing.
Right.
It was a test, and you gotta, sometimes you gotta push the test. You gotta make sure they are the best person for the job.
Shiloh calls his people to pick him up, and his reactions really worked for me. In the heat of the moment, he's calm and cool when he needs to be, but when there's any form of downtime, we see him comment on the insanity around him, and who wouldn't do that? It adds a layer to him that I enjoyed. It made him seem more human, which I really liked that. As he escapes the whole situation, the police are on the scene talking about how only an escape artist could be the one to escape the whole thing. We see a back shot of the Black Racer laughing, which is very creepy in tone. Now, does everyone have to have a dorky line when they ask for an autograph? Because this is just an issue that really bugged me. I'm guilty of this too. I'll admit it. Now, here is an idea for a wonderful book for pop culture fans. I'm not the one to write it. I'm a dolt in that department too. But somebody has to craft a book, 101 lines that will make you seem cool when you meet a celebrity or comic book creator. Because this has to come from real experience.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of this.
Yeah, I'm a dork.
If somebody could craft this,
even
a comic creator who just says, boy, if somebody asked me this, it would be cool. Maybe that's what they should do. A bunch of comic creators should get together and craft these lines and put this book out. These are the questions we'd like you to ask us when you come up. Because I come up there and I try to say something witty, and it ultimately comes out being this stupid.
Yeah, me too.
Can you sign something for my young boy? I couldn't give a flying, but the kid's a massive fan. That doesn't cut it. Because the guy wanted the autograph for himself.
Right.
But he's got to seem a little cooler at that moment. Now, this is interesting. We saw Turpin in Final Crisis fighting to maintain his personality. Are we seeing the people here trying to come to terms with being the host? Is that what you got right there? I'm talking about when we see the homeless people. Because you see Metron's kind of in a very different state at this point. Orion's protecting him, but kind of not the Orion like we would know him. He's a powerful person, but not, like Orion's all attitude. And Mother Box changes things, though. The second that he mentions Mother Box, they let him into the barracks, which looks like an abandoned, condemned property. When Shiloh pulls out Mother Box for answers from these people, it acts like a beacon for Darkseid. They all freak out. They're like, what are you doing at this moment? Darkseid's hunting us, and you just let him here. And I did like that. He would want to stomp out all resistance. Any chance for hope, any chance for the New Gods' return. He would scramble, try to get them separated and all that stuff. I don't think at this point, I think Darkseid knows that he can't kill them all. Did you read it that way?
Right.
But let's keep them on the run.
And keep them scattered, and if you destroy their current host, they got to find a new one, and there's a process. They won't be in a position of power to stop him.
Keep them off their
Right.
keep them off any stable ground. Keep hope.
It's one thing for them to be, alive and around. It's another thing for them to be these desolate, homeless guys that no one's going to believe, no one's going to follow, no one's going to listen to. So he's got to keep them down so that, they're around, but they're not as large a threat.
They need freedom's spirit to empower them.
Right.
Okay. It was bothersome to see Orion run to me, because I'm curious to see what it'll take to awaken the New Gods in the Final Crisis story, because we have not seen them yet, and I do want to see them. It does make me wonder where they are. His psychiatrist is trying to dismiss his meeting with the homeless as nothing more than him searching for the meaning in a life that had none. But Shiloh rebels against this. It shows that he's growing. He went into the black hole as a stunt. He didn't seek this. It found him. I really enjoyed seeing his growth here from where he was in the first issue. He seems to be becoming more sure of himself. He's not there yet, but the change is happening. Do you really believe that Shiloh thinks of the mother box as a toy, or does he subconsciously know that it's more? Is that why he knew to hide it from Dr. Desaad? Or how did you read that?
I took it that he's starting to either question his shrink, or he's starting to have more faith in himself and in Mother Box. He's starting to know, no, I don't want them to see this. There's something going on here. It's that he's been exposed to other things, and they're just kind of dismissing it, and he's like, no, you're not right here. I think there's something you're holding back from me.
Shiloh has a big plan for a stunt. And back in Desaad's office, we see the scientist, with this lady who he's doing these horrible things to. He wants help to break Shiloh down. And he also sees the anti-life equation used through technology for the first time, because he calls Darkseid up on the phone and hands the phone to this woman who he's broken down over her art. Because he's sitting there saying, your art's terrible and horrible, and it just breaks down, any type of self-confidence she may have, which is why I'd go to a psychiatrist anyway, which makes sense for him to be in this position. Hands the phone over to her, she's absorbed by the anti-life equation, so we get kind of see an interesting but he's obsessed with Mother Box. He wants Mother Box.
Well, Mother Box is the thing that can stop them.
Right. So that's interesting. Darkseid would not want him to reawaken the New Gods or to act as their agent, so he's out for Shiloh. And she will never dream or love again. They want the same for Shiloh. And I really got much more out of this, reading this alongside Final Crisis. It really, to me, is it's a fun read from that end. So I would encourage somebody, if you haven't read Seven Soldiers, I would read the whole thing to get the whole experience of Seven Soldiers. But if you don't want to jump into all that, at least read Mr. Miracle, because those issues are well worth it. Bullets here, number 2. I was glad to see an investigation going after what happened in issue 0. They had a file on Thomas Dahl, and he is a suspect for the murder of his brother, the heir to the Spider name. And we see that Gimmicks was the daughter of Mary, the girl from the Newsboy Army. Again, the history piece that I'm really liking so much. There is some longevity to all this. There are past events. The Whip and Dynamite Dan are all connected, leading them to question her. The vigilante messaged our friend the Bulleteer, and that's why she was brought in. And that does fit police work. Of course they would pull her in. She's not so much a suspect, information gathering at this point in time. What does she know?
Yes, I like that. That was a great tie-in, Bulleteer, with this whole thing where she was supposed to be their 7th, but she backed down at the last minute. And I was like, that's cool. This is a neat little twist to it, and kind of wondering how she's getting pulled into it. Right here is the direct connection. And
this all leads to some setups for some later swerves, because I like this. We see Vigilante stabbed along with the Whip, and Dalt's intestines pulled out. It adds to a mystery for later on. I was also glad to see the agent from the Shining Knight issues used well here. That Helligan, I would bring her to a meeting with a villain as well, because it would add to intimidation. Of course I'd bring Bulleteer. It's good cop, bad cop, that type of thing, that vibe. I also liked her advice on the superhero world. It's dangerous and not for everyone. You get in over your head and fast. Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, all icons because they make it look easy, but even in their books you see that there's a darker side to all this. Yeah, her look would attract attention in jail, and the reference there was great. They interview the Iron Hand to get more info on what happened to the soldiers, and more importantly, info on Nebula Man. What do you think about her using the hand as a bargaining chip? It was a $15 million item. They were breaking $3 million. I mean, forget about $3 million in the finger. That first finger broke. That thing was at least cut in half in its value.
Easily. That was just a great tool that, in a real true investigation you would never do or even remotely think of doing anything like that, but it's fit. There's so many times when I watch like a cop TV show or a cop movie and I see the interrogation where I'm like, they would never do that. Right. This is one of those things you would never, ever even think of doing something like that because, once you break that first finger, you've lost that person you're questioning. They will never cooperate with you again once you did that very first one. But it was so cool in the story. I didn't have a problem with it, especially because, when, the ride over there, she's like, hey, you got to be the hard ass. You got to just, don't say anything. Just act when I tell you to. Just act when you know. And it was that whole silent just snap. Mm-hmm. Not even thinking twice about it. It just, it fit in with the comic. So I overlooked the fact that it was just woefully inaccurate towards reality, but I didn't care because I was enjoying what I was reading.
Now, he called out Nebula Man with the horn and went after the original 7 soldiers. Now, who did you take his nephew to be? Blue Boy, right?
Yeah, Blue Boy.
Because of the horn?
Because Blue Boy blew the horn.
Right. He hated Saunders because he thought he was a racist against werewolf kind. In reality, he was one of them. He countered it but kept a silver bullet for himself just in case. Now, what happened to kill him? He said Saunders came to him in a dream? Now, did you read that his death then was supernatural? He said he killed his spirit. Is that how you read that?
Yeah. That was when Saunders was killed. He's not completely dead. If in a way, I'm thinking he's kind of like Spectre type, where his spirit is still out there, and his spirit. If
Saunders was a werewolf, though, wouldn't it need a silver bullet to kill him? He was only stabbed.
Oh yeah.
We just found out he was a werewolf. So being stabbed by a spear
wouldn't kill him.
Crud!
Yeah. I was thinking this whole time it was a spirit doing the killing.
No, they just revealed here.
Yeah. Oh, duh.
Saunders
Jim
is alive.
Yeah, Saunders. Oh my God.
Yeah, because they just revealed that he was a werewolf.
Okay, yeah.
That's why remember Helligan was laughing like crazy. Racist. He's one of you.
I completely overlooked that.
Yeah.
I was laughing about the whole anti-werewolf, racism and stuff. I was like, oh, that's a cool little twist to it, but it completely didn't dawn on me that they didn't actually kill the guy.
Right. It's still the death. I question the death of Iron Hand. How that died. I agree with you that there's a supernatural element to all this, though, because
when you deal with that type of stuff, maybe there is a little bit of mystic going on there.
Right. So it's interesting. Bulleteer learns fast that this is something that's got her way over her head. He was dying, and he was glad about this because he wouldn't have to face the Sheeta, and Helligan took that for all the wrong reasons. Bulleteer takes Helligan to her wedding. Helligan reveals her sister's husband to be a werewolf. That was kind of a little bit of a weak part of the issue for me. I don't know about you. It was cool that she got from the interview and all. You might disagree with me. That's fine. But then it picked up again when we got to learn the tease about Sarah. But I don't know, that part with, I don't know that I needed that.
Yeah, I was completely lost and confused there.
Because it seemed to come out of nowhere.
What was the whole thing about? I'm sorry about the milkshake, and then later when the sister is marrying a werewolf. Did we see when she learned out the sister's husband?
Well, that was during the interview. She did reveal that happened during the interview with him.
Okay,
so that was an off-camera kind of thing. But it was like
I don't know why they had that in there.
Yeah. If someone knows, maybe there's a part that I feel like there's something I'm missing here because his name is Lupino. So I don't know if we're missing the connection with Lupino and him and that name. I don't know. Maybe it has something to do if we go back to Blue Boy. There might be a connection there. What was Blue Boy's name?
I don't know.
Maybe that was how she. Oh, maybe that was how she knew because of Blue Boy. Oh, I'll correct one thing about myself. It's definitely Boy Blue, Little Boy Blue, which is the same thing. Off the
Blue Boy, Boy Blue. It's all the damn same.
Yeah,
everybody knows what we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, I know, but still, let's correct it. But I guess when I was looking at it, I looked at a couple websites. I guess that there is a reference to the werewolf from the original Golden Age version. So I don't know. I guess there's a family history with Boy Blue. So if anyone knows the connection, like how she discovered that it was a werewolf, like what the connection was with the werewolf, and maybe how that was discovered from the interview, please throw that out. That was the only part for me that I was kind of like a very mild thing because I like the issue a lot, and I do like the Sarah reveal at the end, where Sarah's like meeting her for the first time, and she's trying to get her life back together, but that Sarah somehow has some grudge with her, and she's going to be an arch villain. Solid cliffhanger. It's a good story. I like Bulleteer a great deal.
Yeah,
so
she's one of the characters on this that I would have liked to have seen more of. Just have her be in the DCU somewhere, make appearance and whatnot. She could be a background character that somebody uses.
And I may be a total dimwit on how I'm not seeing the connection. That's why I threw it out there as a question. I didn't know if you caught it, and maybe there was something I missed.
No, I was lost as well.
Yeah, so if anybody has that connection for us, it's kind of the fun thing about all this. Either, phone it in via voicemail or pop it on the forum or something, just so we can get an update on that, because I am very curious as to how that, you think after this many reads I would know?
And someone will say it and we'll be like, why didn't we figure that out?
Right. Jim, let's go ahead and pop into a top bullet segment. You got the listener ones? You want to start with those?
Yes, I do. Let's start with those. Okay. Number 5. It's Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps. And this was one of those where when usually either people voted for them at the same time or they each had the same number of votes. And I was going through it, and there was just a lot of praise, a lot of love going towards Tomasi and, of course, Johns. And everyone's excited about, what's going to happen with the, Blackest Night. I tell you, it's, it's easy being green.
Jeez.
Number 4 was Trinity, and I was really glad to see this is still getting some love.
You should be ashamed of yourself for the Kermit reference.
Come on, I think that was great.
It was, actually. But, I chuckled.
Okay, good. But, it's great to see this is still getting some, a lot of love, because... I was worried because with Countdown really put a bad taste in people's mouths towards the weekly titles. I'm glad to see people are still liking this and still following it and still reading it. This is something I know we're both really enjoying.
We're going to talk about it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it. So, yeah. But it's cool to see that people are still latching onto this. And if it's one of those things where if you're like, I didn't want to give the weekly things a try because of past stuff, I strongly advise picking this up and reading it. This is a great, not only Trinity story, but a great DCU story, because it's really accentuating the strength that is the DCU and all these other characters. Number 3, Secret Six. And all I gotta say is, amen, my brother, Jason Page, Darth Dad on the forum. He echoed our sentiments that we've said many, many times. This book is so wrong that it just makes it right. that is just the greatest way to, I think, sum up Secret Six. We've gushed about it, multiple issues, so y'all listening to this, you know how we feel about it, and we're only, 3 issues into it now, so if you didn't pick them up, go back, pick them up. You will not regret it. It is just a really cool thing, and it just keeps growing and building and building. I'm waiting for the whoosh down the main hill of the roller coaster. So, number 2 was the Bat Family. And this was one where people were listing all of the Bat families, Nightwing, Robin, Batman, Outsiders, even Batgirl, was getting some love in this. And, Darth Dad, who's like easily some of the best stuff to come out of the Bat family in years. I'm getting excited every time I see one on the shelf. Plus... I did chuckle. I had 2 quotes in this one. A simulated stereo. He's talking about the detective. 848. He's like a heart-wrenching chapter in the continuing Hush storyline. I was like, what's so good? I'm like, yes.
He should be ashamed of himself for that.
I know,
but it was good.
So now I don't feel so bad about Easy being green. Number 1. The Superman family. And, this wasn't just, action or Superman. They were throwing in Supergirl, and they even threw in All-Star Superman, which I was really cool about. And, Stereo, you put it best when you said, an outstanding end to one of the best Superman stories of all time. With All-Star Superman, Grant Morrison and Frank Whiteley have given us something that has been often talked about, but seldom seen. A Superman as an American mythology. I was like, ooh, that's pretty cool. There, and I gotta agree, with the All-Star Superman, just was a great story. It was a great thing. Every time it came out, I was like, yes, I'm reading it. There was, it wasn't a regular weekly, monthly type thing, but it was okay because every time I read it, I got that happy joy feeling from it. So, This is definitely a good time for me, I think, to be a Superman fan. And, of course, with RAP, it's also a good time for Batman. So this is a cool moment for any of the two big powerhouses. Now, some honorable mentions that do have to get mentioned, of course, are Wonder Woman, Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, Flash, a couple of different Final Crisis stuff, Revelation, Rage of the Red Lanterns was, got a couple votes in there. And these are, we're getting titles out there. So,
Well, the honorable mentions are worth mentioning, too, because people thought enough about them that they wanted to write in about it.
Yes. And
so they're definitely worth mentioning because that means listeners were passionate enough about these books to write in about them. So they're books that they were enjoying.
And seeing stuff like Blue Beetle on the list, I'm like, man. And it's a title that's going away. So I'm like, oh. It's something that kind of heart-wrenching a little bit because this was such a great title and I enjoyed talking about it. I enjoyed reading it. He's not completely a dead character because we're going to see him in Titans, but it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be Team Beetle, which was such a cool part of that character. And, we're just now seeing him, we saw him, delve into some of the border issues and the various whatnot of that region, regional issues that just, I was looking forward to more and more stories on it. But you're laughing at me. What?
Just the border issues and the various whatnot. And I'm sitting there like, what does that even mean? It's how we got started on calling you Sensei of the Whatnot. Because there's times where you throw that out, and I'm just like, do you even know what you're saying?
Not always. Not always. Sometimes I just let the magic flow. And when that happens, you get that.
I am sorry. It was one of those moments where people wonder why did you get the name Sensei of the Whatnot? Every so often you'll throw that out and I just start chuckling because I'm sitting there trying to follow your train of thought. Because I genuinely, I highly value anything you say. I really do. And I'll listen to it's one of the reasons why I'm such a pain in the neck to talk to on this show for you. Because I dissect every little word that you say. And it really does come from the fact that I genuinely value what you say. So people out there get the wrong impression that I don't value what Jim says. It's exactly the opposite. I listen to every little word this man says because I have a high respect for his opinions on things. But that's why I catch these ridiculous little things too.
And if I had issues, I would be like, I'd start stuttering and stammering.
Right.
I'm gonna develop a speech impediment.
And that's what that word is for you. That's what that word is for you.
Thanks, appreciate it, pal.
Right, yeah.
We did get some outside of DC. Yeah, outside the DCU votes, which I do, I think that's kind of cool because we both create our lists, so now the listeners are starting to do that. And feel free, everybody.
Please.
When you send in your top 5, if you have some outside DC, put them in a separate category,
or any other. If you have a category that we aren't talking about on the show, the whole point of this top bullet segment for us has always been a celebration of what we're enjoying, and we want your involvement in that. So if there's something you're like, well, guys, I want to honor this, and it doesn't really fit in that category, please put that in there.
Yeah. And we had some great stuff coming through for Young Liars and Air, House of Mystery, something we're both really enjoying. Mm-hmm. Authority is coming back. And I was like, cool, yeah, we're now seeing Authority storyline, so people are going to start talking about it again. But the number one outside DCU was Madame Xanadu.
Wow.
Which, I gotta agree, It was Darth Dad was saying how a beautifully illustrated, fascinating read each and every month, and that is a very good description of this. This is a very artistic piece that I'm reading, and I'm kind of like, wow,
Matt
I'm enjoying
doing a good job of writing a story that plays up to the strength. I also like how it's a historical piece in the sense that we're following her journey right from the Camelot times straight on through to what I'm guessing is eventually going to lead to present day. And I'm really enjoying that book a great deal. Are you getting that monthly?
Yes, I am now.
Okay. You are now. What were you doing with it before?
When it first came out, remember I didn't initially.
That's right.
I didn't initially.
Okay. You didn't pick up the first issue?
Well, I have it now. I went and I bought back issues and stuff, so I'm all caught up.
I'll be honest with you, I totally forgot about that. You did not pick it up initially.
When I was originally going through, I wasn't ordering that in House of Mystery. I wasn't ordering monthly. I told myself I'm just going to wait for the trade to come out.
Are you picking up the whole Vertigo line, or I know that you do some in trade, you do some in singles. Are you picking up the whole Vertigo line, or are there certain books you're not? Or I'm curious on that. It's an interesting.
I think I'm getting almost all of it.
Okay.
I think there may be some stuff out there that I'm not getting.
Can you think of anything that you're not? Like, you're getting scalped.
Well, yeah, scalps and trade.
Jack of Fables?
Trade.
Fables?
Trade, but I'm very sketchy on the trades on that one. I still gave a lot
because of how much history
because there's so much history going on, right?
Because I read that since the beginning. Right. There's a lot. I mean, that book's...
I think I'm like on the second volume of the trades of that one. So
100 Bullets, I knew you were on trades.
That's trades, yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what else. House of Mystery.
Yeah, that's monthly.
Okay. Air.
That's monthly.
Okay, and Madame Xanadu we just talked about. I'm trying to think of Greatest Hits. Did you pick up that mini?
I'm picking up the mini, yeah.
Okay, so you're getting that monthly as well. Okay. I was just curious to see.
Yeah, so I'm getting a lot of...
I probably skipped something there. DMZ?
Yeah, it's trade. That's now on trade full.
Northlanders?
I'm still getting that monthly. I can't shift that over to trade just because when they switched over, they finished with the one story arc, they started up a new one, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it's enough of a. I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to keep going with us a monthly.
Are you still getting Army of Love?
No, that is when I stopped.
Okay, so you didn't pick up the second season,
right?
Okay,
yeah.
Did you get all of the first series?
No, I didn't make it through the full first one. They lost me when they started kind of mixing some magic in with it and some hocus pocus type of freaky stuff. I'm like, you know what? I can accept the weird government type stuff and the Hot Zone Club, okay, and the propaganda war type stuff. I can accept that. Once they started putting in a little bit mystic style, I was like, too much for me.
I
got
agree with you. And I stopped picking up the first series, but then when the second season came out, I read the first issue of it. What I really liked is Rick Veitch went back and kind of told you everything you needed to know, where they had him, he was being interrogated.
Cool.
It was an interesting way to do this. And he told the backstory that you needed to know, and they do that at the beginning of each issue. So if there's something you need to know for that issue in their backstory-wise, I've been fascinated by that. So, and then I follow into the issue, and I know enough about the characters from what I did read of the first season straight on through. I'm enjoying the second season, so I did keep doing that. And I enjoyed that a great deal. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I left out of that. I know I'm forgetting something, and it's like bugging me that I'm forgetting something. I don't know. I'll just leave it there for the moment. I was just curious to see what you are. I'm picking up the entire line. Most of it I'm doing monthly. I can't think of anything I'm doing in trades because I did get caught up. 100 Bullets, I'm almost completely caught up with. I got a little bit behind on 100 Bullets. But I've got all the singles. It's not a monthly. I mean, it's not a trade book for me. It's a singles book for me. So, and that's a great read. I'm only behind just because I got behind, and it was one of the ones. It was the only one during the summer I didn't get caught up with. So I've still got a few behind. But that was interesting. Anything else from the listeners on
that's about
outside of the DCU? I think I'm going to start with my outside of the DCU, and then we'll work our way through. This was interesting for me because I had to pick. I took the issue numbers off of this whole equation because we're really combining Septembers and Octobers, and I got to admit a little bit of Novembers bleed into this, and I just went through books that right now, just kind of over the past few months, have excited me. So I did a top 5 list for outside of the DCU, and this shifted like multiple times for me. So even at this point, this is kind of a fluid one. Starting out with my number 5 book, Greatest Hits is a miniseries that I really enjoyed. I liked the little reference, like the Beatles type references to the whole thing, but I like how it's splashed with a little bit of today's sensibilities in the way that the storytelling shifts and all that. It's an interesting miniseries. My only regret with the whole doggone thing is that it's not an ongoing; it's a miniseries because I'm having a lot of fun with it. So this is one I'd like to see continue. My number 4 was Air. This has been with the terrorist story and the love affair she's having with the guy and everything that's going on there. These have been characters that have drawn me in a way that, like, the first issue I picked it up and I enjoyed it. But it's really the second issue and the third issue and now into the fourth that I'm really starting to enjoy her whole universe and how it plays into some of our own concerns today when we get on an airline flight and our own kind of issues that we have right now. It's a very today book in the wake of 9/11. And it's a very smart book, but it goes beyond that, and it's oversimplifying to say it's just that. But I do like that whole kind of reference. I like the relationship with the boyfriend. Whatever, I guess that's what you'd call him, right?
Yeah.
Loosely. House of Mystery, I can't agree with enough. The whole, and really it is a house of mystery. I love the whole aspect that I guess what you would call the lead character, although it's a cast of lead characters, basically has the map of the house in her head. And they're using that to try and find a way to escape. How many of the people have contented themselves with the fact that they're trapped there. But that there's still that element. I liked when she was trying to escape in the initial issues as well. I got really behind this. This is a book, I love Matthew Sturgis's writing. When he writes with Bill Willingham or when he does it on his own, it's just a great, he's been writing Blue Beetle right now, and we can't talk about that enough. He's just a writer that typically, if it's got Matthew Sturgis on it, I will pick it up. He was the writer on Shadow Pact, which I loved. And so it's just everything that he seems to touch is really just great material. So just kind of if you're not picking this one up, do yourself a favor and give it a shot because it's well worth picking up and trade. My number 2, Billy Batson and the Magic of Shazam. This is one that spinning out of the hardcover and of course the prestige format issues done by Jeff Smith. This is one that the series, the amount of depth in this book, this is true all ages. And this is one that I honestly say for some smaller kids, you're going to need to read it to your child. And it's, or to niece or nephew or to, whoever, you've got in your family, younger brother or sister, depending on your age or anything like that. And don't feel like this is one of those you have to avoid and say, well, this is meant for kids. It's not. This is an everybody book. It's very well written. These are just great characters. It's fun. It puts a smile on your face and a lot of depth to it. My number 1 is going to be a huge shock, Tiny Titans. I ordered 2 copies of the trade, one for my classroom and one for me. Why do I need a copy of the trade? I don't know. I've got all the issues. I just love the book so much. I love their Patrick the Wolf Boy. I know it's not DC. Anything Art and Franco on it, I will just grab automatically. I grabbed his Amoeba book, which is, about his whole break into comics and all that stuff. These guys are great. They're fun. They're entertaining for everybody. The inside jokes in Tiny Titans are just meant for everybody. So it's just, these are just 5 books right now that just, and I wanted to stick that to a top 5. And there's a lot more books that I'm really enjoying that are outside of the DCU at the moment that's being published by DC, but those are the ones that really stuck out for me. There's one other book in there, and actually this one would technically go in for my top 5. It came out like right towards the end of when I was doing my list. I want to talk about Top 10, Season 2, which is a book. Did you get to finish the first issue while you were reading?
Yeah.
Okay, I was finishing up my notes. We're going to talk about this in Speeding Bullets. I'm a big fan of Gene Ha's art. I also read all of Top 10 leading up to this. And it's a book that I think would be hard-pressed to not mention it as it's my top Wildstorm read right now. Right behind Fringe is right behind it. And so we'll talk about that when we get into Speeding Bullets a little bit more because it's a great series. And it's also this Top 10 Season 2. Don't feel like you have to have read Top 10 to understand this. It really starts off with a very fresh arc that tells you everything you need to know. You don't need to have read anything, and it fits in real nicely. So we'll talk a little bit more about that at the time we get to it. What do you have for outside of the DCU?
Well, outside for the DCU, it's very funny. Our lists are very similar. Okay. I was listing Northlanders for number 5. Mm-hmm. My number 4 was a Vinyl Underground. I was very sad to see that go.
I was too.
I really enjoyed that. I was hoping that would be an ongoing, and I don't know if it didn't have the numbers or whatnot, but I liked the ending of it, though. So it did kind of leave the door open for more issues and just kind of
or just to make you think that that's still going on.
Right.
Or maybe they'll do, very similar to what they're doing with Army of Love, do seasons. I hope it does come back. Can I say something about Northlanders real quick, seeing as you mentioned it? One of the things that actually I really like about Northlanders is when they do a new arc, it really is a whole new arc. Because, I mean, we had that really contained Sven story in the beginning, and then we get this whole arc with the kid afterwards that I thought was great. I love this book because it's really... And so if you're somebody who didn't pick up Northlanders from the beginning, don't be afraid to jump on the new arc, because it really is a whole new arc, and you can start off a whole brand new Northlanders story, and it's a fun book, good writing by Brian Wood. I would highly recommend picking that one up, too.
Okay, my number 3 spot went to Madame Xanadu.
Ooh, very good.
Yes, and number 2 went to House of Mystery. I was like, so as you see, these quickly rose up as soon as I started reading them. I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I'm getting them monthly. And here's the funny thing. My number 1 top spot, I honestly could not pick between the 2 titles.
Okay.
And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have 2 things for my top spot.
Fine.
But it's okay because they're both Johnny DC.
Wow.
Tiny Titans and Billy Batson. As you're sitting there talking about your 1 and 2, I'm just sitting there grinning going, yeah, I agree with you, Norge. And I also ordered the trade, even though, why do I need the trade? I don't know. I still just wanted it just because.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's a good read. And it's, right here, we got 2 adults. We ordered them for our own reading. I don't have any connection with any kids at all, and I'm enjoying these things. And I'm, picking this up and reading it. If these are all age appropriate, but they're not only for little kids. If anybody else will read this and enjoy it, especially the Teen Titan fans. If you're a Titans fan, Tiny Titans has the little inside jokes that just makes you crack up and laugh. They had the one thing where the cover of the one even just had me going with Tara, where they're like, what on your paper? I got an A. The report card cover. I got an A. I got a C. I got a rock. Yeah, just once again, Charlie Brown Christmas, but also Tara, and it was just so many things.
That's a good comparison to it too.
Yeah.
Actually, it's very Charlie Brown in its feel. I like that.
So I was like, come on. It's just like little stuff like that throughout every one of those issues makes it just a fun read every single time. It's a truly just a smile on the face.
Yeah, and it's one of those. I really wish the trade was out for Christmas because, it's one of those, and it was brought up at one of the conventions that it should have been out for Christmas because it would be a stocking stuffer and a half. And it's a book that belongs in the stocking stuffers. I would have bought them for my nieces and nephews because it's a great
definitely,
book.
Yeah.
It's funny, the Johnny DC stuff, I don't know if you find yourself doing this. I ordered the Supergirl one just to see what it's like.
Yep.
I ordered, I forget, there was something else that was coming out that I saw. Brave and the Bold, the Batman, the Brave and the Bold, the cartoon
pick that up
one.
as well.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. So it's really, I pick up Family Dynamic. I got all 3 issues of that miniseries. I really enjoyed that. So the Johnny DC stuff right now really has been, I've picked it up without hesitation. It's nice, too, because it's at a cheaper price point and it's good reading.
Yeah, it's it's one of those things where when I'm doing my order, I look at the Johnny DC, see what they got there, and I'm grabbing them.
So it's funny that this all ages material is just really just grabbing me. For my top list, I did limit myself this time because I knew we were going to be talking about a couple of months and that we had some Speeding Bullet stuff. I knew our episode was. How many do you have?
I have 5.
You have 5?
I have top 5.
I have 15.
Oh, okay. So you did limit yourself. Wow.
I did
Good
limit
job.
myself. For me, that is a limit. And there actually is a couple of ties, but they're ties because they really do. I don't know how I would separate them. But why don't I go ahead and do my 15 to 5 and then we'll trade off.
Okay,
we'll just kind of go through quickly. Number 15 was Booster Gold for me. It's continued to, with fill-ins and things like that, it's continued to be a book that I've just been really enjoying. I like Booster Gold a great deal. He's been a fun character. I was afraid when Jeff Johns left that my interest would leave with it, but I enjoyed the Chuck Dixon fill-ins. Straight on through to today, I'm enjoying what's going on right now. You talked about it in Speeding Bullets in the one episode, and I ended up going through and reading both of those issues and really have been enjoying it so far. So it's a book that I'm just keeping following because I think he's just a great character. I can't wait till Jan Jurgens comes on to see what he's going to do with this character because it's a book that it's like Blue Beetle and like some of these other ones. I'm hoping this sticks around because it's fun. Green Lantern Corps was number 14 for me. And I was going to put it with Green Lantern, but I'm like, really, there are separate story arcs going on right now. That's been a book. Tomasi's run on that has been fantastic. I've been enjoying it. And I've been enjoying, Star Sapphire and that whole storyline that was running through it and how it's really kind of expanding these multicolored lanterns. We got to see the Mongol stuff straight into Star Sapphire. And these books are really important right now. So if you're not reading them and you're going to be reading Blackest Night, stick with them. Because I think everything right now that Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps is doing is a direct lead into Blackest Night. Number 13 for me, and these I was going to put all the Bat Family together. And it's really, I think, one of the strengths of the Bat Family is my Robin and Nightwing issues have always been on my top bullets list. And I really do think, for the sake of the creative teams, I wanted to designate them separately because they're not bulleted and numbered like the Superman books are, which you'll see I put them together because I really do feel my enjoyment of them is that it's one continuing story. But I do think a strength here, like Robin is my number 13 book. And it's been growing up my stack. And it's been one of those books that I think has been very consistent, and it belongs in a top list because it's a great read. Tim Drake is a wonderful character, or Tim Wayne, whatever you want to call him. He's just a wonderful character, and it's a book that I would not drop in a million years for me. So it's one of those. We did a huge segment with Freddie Williams II, and I meant every word of everything I said in that, and that's why this book's on my list. Just a little bit ahead of it is Nightwing, which is number 12. Peter Tomasi's run on that, Dick Grayson for me, and I think it's what you touched on. We were talking about Batman 681. You made a mention about how right now, how accessible Dick Grayson is, and how we've seen him he's found himself. And I think it is due to some of what's going on with him and Batman, but I do like how thematically it's carried over into his book and who he is, and that's the strength of Peter Tomasi. I think both Fabian and Peter are doing just a wonderful job on these Batman characters that, to me, I think those books carry themselves. They don't need to be connected with Batman to succeed as books. I think they're very well written, great books, but the fact that they do in tone and so well is great. Number 11 for me is Hal Jordan's book, Green Lantern. I love Hal. The Secret Origins story arc was going through most of the time that we would be discussing at this point, and I really enjoyed the care that Jeff Johns put in to making it a story that it wasn't just an origin retelling. It added something to the mythos that is going to benefit us later. And we saw it start to benefit us right away in Rage of the Red Lanterns. And, the book's going to intersect back in with the origin then of the Blue Lanterns. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about Green Lantern is that it's just this big ongoing story and everything matters in Green Lantern at the moment. I've enjoyed Hal's return since Rebirth, and that book continues to be a top spot. Number 10 for me, and this is a book that I really have, it's sad that it's being canceled. Blue Beetle, because I had this on there before I heard, this was on my list from September, because I have been keep maintaining this list, and I made adjustments for this episode, because I'm like, okay, I want to talk about everything that's kind of come before, because we're going to do Raging Oscars next, so we're not going to do another Top Bullets until 2009. So, because our Raging Oscars will be the next segment that we do. And Blue Beetle, it wound up at number 10 for me with issues 31 and 32, specifically the Dr. Midnight team-up. I really enjoyed the spotlight of Dr. Midnight, how he interacted with Blue Beetle, and I loved how Matthew Sturgis not only showed us Jaime Reese, but also added something to Dr. Midnight for me that I will take with me to JSA when I read him in there. And it was a good use of both characters. I love the relationship with his girlfriend. It just, to me, was just a very well done couple of issues. Number 9 for me was Detective Comics, Heart of Hush. That storyline for me was fantastic. Number 8, Jonah Hex. I got you reading Jonah Hex again because I've been gushing about it so much. It really is one of those Jonah Hex that when it comes out during the week, I always read it. It never stockpiles. I always read the issue of Jonah Hex when it's out. It's probably the most sincere compliment I can give. We both have busy schedules. And people, obviously from the show, you've seen that, there's been times where we've had to delay the episodes a couple of weeks because you and I trying to find time to be able to record to get together. But Jonah Hex is one of those, in my week, I make sure I find time when that book comes out to read it. And Gray and Palmiotti, just to me, anything they touch is gold. And that's a book that should be on the list for me.
Yeah, and it's funny with Jonah Hex. I, of course, went back and picked up all the back issues and whatnot. So I have the full collection now of Jonah Hex.
A book that is going back up the ladder for me again is Green Arrow Black Canary. That's my number 7 book with issues 13 and 14. I enjoyed the book since the beginning. I've been gushing over it. It was my top 5 book for the longest time. It slipped a little bit as the story arc went on because I thought it took a little bit too long to end. That just kind of ended abruptly with issue 12. I don't know why. It's kind of funny that I'm saying it stretched on a little bit too long, but then ended abruptly. It really did feel like it kind of wrapped up real quick. it's not saying it was bad. I loved the ride. It was a good book. It still made my top list all the way along. But it was funny when I first did this list back in September. It was down lower, and with 13 and 14, it rose back up to the number 7. And really, the reason why is I really loved, especially in issue 14, the spotlight on Connor, and basically in 13 and 14, how that all played out. How we got to see the resolution of, because of that first 12 issue arc, what happened to him. I'm so glad that we got to see Mia and her first date with Dodger. I thought they were just great issues. The artwork on that is always wonderful and very pleasing. I love what Mike Norton's doing. It's just a wonderful book. Visually, it's very bright, and it's something that the colors, to me, really succeed with, because it's a bright, happy book, and it's been a fun book for me all the way throughout. And I loved the whole references to Ra's al Ghul and how, basically how everything all played. But 13 and 14 was really those two spotlights on those two characters. It's got me, I know from at least the solicitations I've read, it looks like we're going to be losing Mia and Connor, if I'm reading it correctly. In not like that they're dying or anything, but that they're going to be written out for at least temporarily. And I'm kind of sad to see them go, but I'm glad that Winnick got an opportunity to do spotlights on both characters and leave us with a reason for them to be able to go that way. Because to me, it was a very strong end to a run. So it belongs up there. My number 6 was Trinity. And that's another one that's been rising up my stack. And I really had a hard time not placing it higher, especially with recent issues. This book has been an enjoyable read all the way through, and I don't even know anymore if I would count the back stories as a separate story, because so often the what's going on in the beginning leads into what's going on in the back. So it's kind of one big story anymore, at least to me it is. And we actually saw the issue where they flip-flopped, where the team from the back was on the front. And it worked very well because it's the Carter Hall, obviously the Carter Hall Hawkman story, so obviously I'm going to note that. But it really has been just a wonderful read. This, to me, is the spine of the universe story that Countdown was going to be. This is really the one. If you got a friend who's not reading DC Comics right now and you want to introduce them to DC, give them Trinity.
Yeah, this would be a great read for, and as I said, this isn't just a good Trinity story. This is a DCU story.
Mm-hmm. And it really is a good introduction for anybody, and they can kind of pick the characters they want to branch off and follow. I'm really, really loving it. We'll talk more. I want to talk about that in Speeding Bullets, so we're definitely going to talk about that today. But what do you got for number 5?
My number 5 is Supergirl. It was one of the things I do. I like to keep my Superman titles together. I like to keep my Bat titles together, but I have to give just separate props to Supergirl, just away from the rest of it, because these, like 33, 34, we're seeing, 35 now. We're seeing the building of the creation of Supergirl on her own. We're seeing she's addressing some of the mistakes she's made. She's, confronting them and dealing with the problems. There's a lot of burden being, the cousin of Superman and having the big red S on your chest. And I liked seeing this growth in the character. We had the, 34 with Jamal jumping on it with his artwork. With we see her secret identity. 35 now, which technically is out of the range, but it's part of the triangle numbering system. So it's a nice meshing of her, bringing her into it. So it's one of those titles where there were points and times when I was a little sketchy on it, but it's once it got going, it's like, okay, they're identifying, they're answering stuff. Boom, this, and this. So there's some cool stuff coming down the line for her.
My number 5 was Wonder Woman. And specifically 25 and 26, the movie issues, were the ones that I'm talking about right now. What I really like about Gail's work is, and I've mentioned this multiple times, she has a really nice way of understanding the balance of humor versus drama and, danger and all that with the storyline. This Queen of Fables business, we got to see the Kathy Lee Crosby Wonder Woman in a way that it totally fit into a Wonder Woman issue. And it was great. I love that she pulled from all of Wonder Woman's past. I'm glad that we got to see Wonder Tot and just a lot of things from Wonder Woman's mythos that very similar to what Morrison's done, where he brought Batmite in into the Batman R.I.P. storyline, she brought these things in a way that it fits the current storytelling that she was doing. And Queen of Fables was a great way to kind of give fans, longtime fans of Wonder Woman, a chance to kind of go, yeah, that's kind of cool. Look, she brought in. Look what she did with that. And that was cool. It fit into the storyline without it being hokey and without it derailing what she was trying to do. And I really liked the whole Queen of Fable thing, Diana's resolution and all that. So that was a book that really, to me, belongs up in my top 5. What was your number 4?
Mine was Detective Comics. This was one of the things where I was trying to put one of the Bat titles in there. And as you know, Robin is in my Hall of Fame, so I'm not going with Robin. And I was really toying with Nightwing there. And, of course, you got Batman where you have the R.I.P. story. But there's there's something about that Detective Comics story arc with the Hush story where they're really showing the human side of Batman. They're showing his relationship side. As Stereo said, it was a heart-wrenching story, and it was a good story. And
I love how you're trying to say that like that's serious.
Yeah. Dude, come on. I really love that
I
line.
do love that. I love that, too.
I had to use it again.
No, I'm just loving the way you're saying it. It's like you're doing a public service message.
Exactly. But no, seriously, I just got to, we just spent, a lot of time gushing about R.I.P., and it's a wonderful story. I love R.I.P., but there is, this Detective Comics, there is just something about the story that I was like, this is a really cool Batman story, not a event story. This is just a Batman story. And also, I loved what they did with Hush, giving us more background on why he did who he is, what, the whatnot behind Hush in these stories. So I was like, this is cool. These are definitely a neat, cool read.
What is the whatnot behind Hush?
Exactly. The whatnot behind Hush.
My number 4, it's actually going to be a surprising placement for this to some people. The whole Final Crisis experience. I was really toying around with where does this belong in my top 5, because it does, because I'm loving it immensely. And when I'm saying that, I'm making a tie on this, and the reason why is it's my enjoyment of Final Crisis number 4 is due largely to Submit, to Resist, to Revelations, to Legion of Three Worlds. I'm enjoying the whole ride. So I had originally, when I put everything down, I had put these in individual spots, and then I'm like, well, and I kept shifting them, and I really spent like this insane amount of time trying to plug them in, and I'm like, this is really stupid, because the reason why I'm shifting them around is because I'm finding reasons why each one makes one better, and I'm like, and it really was like Submit and Resist, with the whole Submit showing us how everything came down to Final Crisis number 4, and then Resist showing us now that we have hope. And it was building off the whole Flash concept in number 4, where he's showing us hope, and building on that. You can't separate them. And Revelations was the issues that were, especially 4, was showing us in Revelations what this world was like under the anti-life equation. And Legion is one of those that, from everything I've read about what they're trying to do with Legion, they're setting the tone for what this universe is going to look like post Final Crisis. Not just Final Crisis, but beyond. So it's this whole experience right now of setting the stage for the DC Universe afterwards that I'm really enjoying. Rage of the Red Lanterns fits in there as well. Although, technically, I would either plug Rage of the Red Lanterns in with this grouping, but also thematically it goes along with my enjoyment of Green Lantern at the moment, because it's part of that big storyline as well. So I'm kind of tentative on where I would place Rage of the Red Lanterns, but it's definitely on the top list in one of those 2 categories. What's your number 3?
Wonder Woman. We've echoed how many times have we gushed about Wonder Woman titles, and just the stuff you just said before. It's just this wonderful read, and it's combination of the comic, the action, just the beautiful artwork, the strung out stories that are just like they're dancing along, and the subtle plannings of the future story arcs. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing the Olympian, and
I am too.
I'm
very excited.
I'm very excited about that, and we've already seen bits and pieces of them collecting the dirt from the various atrocities to create. So I'm like wondering what type of monster she's going to have to deal with. How is she going to take him down?
What is genocide going to be like?
There's a lot going on that I'm like, ooh, Plus, just the general. The background story of her, not as Wonder Woman, her Diana Prince stories, her dealing with Sir Thomas from Cleveland. It is funny. There's so much beyond Wonder Woman that is in that title that I'm enjoying.
And I want to add, her development of Nemesis added to my enjoyment of him in Trinity.
Yes.
He made that recent appearance in Trinity. We'll talk more about Trinity later, but I specifically want to talk a little bit about Nemesis in Trinity and how important my interest in his role currently in Trinity has to do with how well he's been developed by Gale in that book. My number 3 was the Superman books. And there's a reason why I didn't separate them. With the triangle numbering that they've been doing, and I'm including the specials in there as well. With the triangle numbering and the specials of these books, it was really hard for me to separate them. And like Supergirl, for example, to me is part of this storyline. It fits into the whole thing, especially, and Speeding Bullets, I want to talk about the most recent issue. I want to save that because I'll put it in the show notes that we're going to talk about it because it was so recent that I don't want to ruin that for anybody who maybe is going to skip that segment. But each of these issues are adding some more layers to the storyline. It's not just the Kandor story. It's the story of the Earth, the Earth reacting to Krypton, and the military reacting to not just the Krypton stuff. I think they're using that as an excuse because they already wanted to go after Superman. You see General Lane doing his bits over there, and that's because of, and that's part of my enjoyment. Each week I want to find out more of this. I love this serialized, comics are always serialized, but I like the weekly serialized numbering back again. I'm curious to see if after New Krypton, if they're going to continue in this fashion, or if we're going to see them take off the triangle numbering, or how that's going to work. I'm hoping it stays. I like this.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like the triangle. I like the connections and the interconnections of them and whatnot. And it's funny, my number 2 is Superman. And I'm normally an Action Comics guy. If I had to pick between Superman or Action Comics, I go with Action Comics. But I seriously, these past couple months, I've really, not that I'm not enjoying Action Comics. I am. It's a great read. But if I kind of wanted just to pick one of the two. Normally I would have said the Superman titles for number 2, but I'm like, I wanted just to pick one title out of the Superman titles, and that's why I went with.
Was it the Crypto issue that set you up?
Yes, yeah. It was the Crypto issue, and it was the follow up with Crypto with him going to Ma Kent, and just all this. That I was just like
that Good Dog issue. Got me.
That got me so... I was just like... I go back and I've read it a couple times now. And then later when we saw the Guardians special, when they're driving into Metropolis and they're like, Superman, home of Superman, Supergirl, and someone painted it and Crypto.
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah! I was like, that's just a cool thing.
The Silver Age has become cool.
Yeah, I'm digging it.
Yeah. I mean, very cool. Those concepts, they can be updated, they can be used, and they can be cool. My number 2 was Batman. And it went between 2 and 1. I kept shifting. R.I.P. has been such a joy for me. Anybody who's a Superman fan who's really enjoying what they're doing in there right now, for me, R.I.P. has been what you're getting in the Superman books. It's great to have this big, epic Batman mystery unfolding before my eyes that I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And I spent way too much time off air thinking about this story arc, which is probably the most sincere compliment I can give it. My mind would change. I would think about things Jim said on the show, things listeners posted in the forum, trying to make connections with where they were going. I looked on websites. I was trying to make connections to this whole thing. And you saw we did an episode today on it. An oversized book. I was rushing to do notes. I was finishing up redoing my notes on Seven Soldiers because I wanted to redo them again. And I jumped back in and I said, I've got to I want to chat RIP today. This is, to me, a renaissance of being able to enjoy Batman. So it's good stories. Great story arcs at the moment. What's your number 1?
I think we have the same number 1.
Oh, I would be in shock if we don't.
Secret Six?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, what a big surprise. We're both, it's...
disturbingly cool.
I know. It was funny.
I'm not just going on Secret Six number 1. 1 and 2, I mean, I think 2 kind of set me over the edge. This is my favorite book.
There was absolutely no hesitation for me. When I create my list, I'm like, okay, what? I'll throw out I'll put out 10 titles out there. Then I'll think, when I threw out everything, this was number 1. Mm-hmm. I was fighting for the next 2 through 5 spots, for me, because it's got what I want in a comic. It's wonderfully, deliciously, nasty, funny.
I'm wondering what they're going to do next.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful book.
Yeah.
Like some of the scenes, especially in issue 2, some of those flashback scenes where they look like film reel and stuff like that. I was just like, whoa.
Yeah, you can kind of hear the
Stunning.
kind of sound, yeah.
Yeah. So it was one of those, I did literally, that was one of those where I get you with the sound effects because I was hearing that too. It felt very film noir, and it fit looking back at what Tarantula did. I'm excited for Jeanette, this new character. I don't know who she is.
Or what she can do.
But I want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know. And it's amazing with how many characters DC has right now. To be excited about a brand new creation and want to know what her deal is probably the most sincere compliment I can give, because I really do. I want to know, okay, who is she and what is she going to add to this whole mix? It's great. So that's where I'm at. This is fun top bullets.
Yeah.
Our next segment we're going to do on this, we're going to do sometime in December, and it'll probably be towards the end of the month. Probably, like one of our last episodes of December, the first issue of January, we're going to do the Raging Oscars, which I'm guessing we have to do it, like last episode in December, our first one in January, because we're going to take a look at the year. It's going to be our year in review. Our focus is going to be on the DC Universe books, and we'll do like an outside of the DCU segment on that episode. I don't want to separate it. We'll do it kind of similar to how we do Top Bullets, where we'll do a mini outside of the DCU segment, just because last year we never got to the outside of the DCU stuff, so I want to make sure I'd rather do a small segment and get it in and expand upon it if we can, than not do it at all and say, geez, I wish that we did. So I want to make sure that we'll end off the year. It'll be our end of the year recap. What was 2008 like for us? So that's going to be our big focus now. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this segment. And Jim, let's go do some speeding bullets. Jim, I want to do a speeding bullet segment where we kicked off talking about Trinity. And what I want to do with Trinity now, because you and I have both talked about this, we're so behind on Trinity, and I want to talk about it more frequently. So I want to kind of do what we've been doing with the Superman books, where we'll pick an issue every so often to do cover to cover of Trinity. But I want to do like a speeding bullet style thing where we can kind of just talk about themes and things that we've been enjoying in the recent issues of Trinity. So we're going to do this week to kind of kick that off is just kind of do a general catch-up to issue 25 to kind of talk about Trinity so far, some of the things we haven't had a chance to talk about. And I wanted to talk about some of the people related, because the Trinity at this point, the enemy succeeded. Sort of.
Yeah, sort of. There's that, oops.
They wanted to take out our Trinity to get this godlike power. Well, something goes horribly wrong. And basically what happens is Despero isn't really Despero. Despero is Kanjar-Ro. Interesting placement of him, though, because he was just on that Blue Beetle episode of Batman the Brave and the Bold.
I know.
So it's interesting to see this character playing through multimedia. And it's one of the things I'm really enjoying in comics right now is seeing, characters in cartoons, seeing them in video games, seeing them there. But Kanjar-Ro is a great example of that. Imagine, you're looking for one of the most powerful beings in the universe, and, off comes this costume, and it's Kanjar-Ro.
Oh, man.
Wouldn't you be disappointed?
Yeah, and they were just so miffed because, they each, it worked. The spell was cast. They get the power in. And, we have Enigma and Morgan Le Fay who both become godlike powers, but it's still not everything because they didn't have a third vessel for the other powers. Mm-hmm. And I love the look on Kanjar's face, like, hey, guys, can we talk about it? Let's deal, And I was just like, dude, you are so toast, but because he is the wormy, squirmy, type of dude, he's able to slip away. And I love this about this guy. He's got that, cowardly nature that's almost courageous because he's sitting there, he's facing down two godlike powers, and instead of just dropping to his knees, begging for forgiveness, he's like, hey, let's talk about it. Hey, we can work a deal. Yeah, come on, let's do this. And even later on, when he comes face to face with Despero, who he is pretending to be, and he knows what kind of guy he is. He doesn't like being, abused or, had. And he's like, hey.
But he is. He's totally manipulating him because now he wants to use this guy saying, hey, wait a minute. They want to share power with you. What about if we grab the power?
Yeah. Oh, man. And
Which is a brilliant swerve there because those two are going to come to Despero. So now all of a sudden he's going to use this guy hopefully to try and seize their power from them. And I really enjoyed that.
And it was beautiful, just constantly bob and weave on his part when he was dealing with Despero. He's like, first, hey, I know these guys. I can tell you all about them. I can tell you their strengths, weaknesses. I don't care who they are. I'm going to kill them after I kill you. Hold on, I got this other power for you. Look at this over here. And it's like, plan A didn't work. Okay, let me jump into plan B. And I was just, but probably my favorite title, because like the titles of these different issues are quotes from the comic, came from the whole Despero story, and it was the air is for cowards. Air is for cowards. And I was just like, oh, it's when Green Lantern, John Stewart's kind of fused, his powers a little bit freaky. He's fighting Despero's fleet. Despero just lunges out of the ship, no spacesuit, no nothing, to go one-on-one, mano a mano with the Green Lantern. And he's like, his computer and his, his subjects are like, sir, you don't have a suit on. He's like, air is for cowards. As he jumps out, I was like, oh, man, I'm digging this guy.
The sad part is, speaking of John Stewart, as long as we're in that moment, poor John Stewart, he's... The computer effects that are going on, I guess I thought it was Enigma all along. It wasn't. It turns out to be an after effect of a mistake he made in the past that, he's dealing with now, and he's sealed up in his ring, but now it's overtaking him. He's somebody that, would he give up the current world? Look at what he's got in the current world. As a hero, he's going to have to make a decision. Am I going to help them to change this world where I've got a family?
Yeah, when the Trinity disappeared, everyone's lives got rearranged. I love Elseworld stuff, but with John's, it was really cool because he's got a wife, he's got kids.
Right.
The whole Green Lantern thing's a mystery. It's not a public knowledge type thing. He's hidden on Earth because Green Lanterns aren't welcome on this Earth.
Right.
So this is a complete swerve in John Stewart's story where he was the very public, very out in the open Green Lantern. Didn't wear a mask, didn't do any of that stuff. So I liked seeing this whole thing. You got to ask yourself, man, John, what's going to happen to you? Is he? Well, and now how is he going to deal with this?
Because of this thing inside him, it's been revealed that he's Green Lantern. So what is that going to do with his family, and what is that going to look like? That's going to be an interesting thing. He has violated a major law now. What's going to happen? Firestorm. I love the focus on Firestorm. I was a big fan of the Firestorm solo series, big fan of starting to see him as a member of the JLA. In this particular storyline, to have him, because of his being fused together and being two beings, when this whole warped around him, he still has memories of our Earth.
Yeah.
Afraid to, and I like that he was afraid to separate, because he was afraid that they might lose that. We do eventually see them separate, and he's still okay at this point, but it is an interesting turn of events that Firestorm is here now trying to, first of all, wake up John Stewart, which he does, and now he's got to face the JSI, the Justice Society International, and we're finding out in this world that the JSI is kind of like a police force. A military force?
They're not fighting for justice. They're fighting for security.
Right.
And that's a huge thing with them. But talking about Firestorm. Firestorm is one of the reasons why I'm really digging the Trinity title so much, because the hook that got me in was reading a cool Trinity story. But along the way, I'm learning these different characters, and he's one of them. I've gone out now and I've purchased the Firestorm trade, and I'm reading other stuff.
Did you really?
Yeah, just because I'm digging this character, I'm like, let me read this other trade. I'm glad he's in the JLA now. I want to see more stuff with him in it. This is a great way for this character to get an introduction. It's, you got your door opening, the Trinity, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, yeah. But while you're going, oh, look at this. Hey, who's this guy? Hey, and it's the same thing like with Hawkman. It's the Trinity stuff is what brought me, Hawkman to the dance for me. I really started seeing the strength of the character like Hawkman. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. There's some cool stuff going on with the big, the big Birdman. So it's
the scroll in particular. Yeah. We got this scroll from the past now that basically is writings from the past from Prince Khufu, who basically saw what was going to happen, and he's trying to alert the future, his future self. Basically, he wakes up Carter Hall.
Yeah, that was a weird thing. That one, it was one of those. When I first read it, I was like, "What? Wait a minute!" Because they altered the past. Mm-hmm. Where the Trinity hadn't had any direct effect to it. So at first I was like, what? And then I started reading a little bit more into it. And what it was the universe is trying to correct itself. Right. The universe is trying to fix it, so it goes back to the past to correct itself in the present. I was like, Oh, okay. That is a cool usage of the whole, the universe is a self, entity. It's its own thought.
Trying to repair itself.
Yeah, it's trying to fix stuff.
And and we see more and more in these issues of Trinity, it's constantly trying to repair itself. Because things will change, and this is where people are starting to realize what's happening. Things are changing around them, and they're becoming aware of those changes now.
Right.
Because they're happening too frequently, the universe doesn't have enough time to fix the memories of the people that it's changing things around. So the people are starting to become aware of these changes as well, which is adding. It's good for Firestorm and people like that, because they're starting to see, the people who didn't believe him before are starting to, or believe them before, because Firestorm's a male and a female. Interesting, they go to the Flash then. Who would you go to? Somebody who can travel through time. The problem is the relationship between the Justice League and this JSI is not a good relationship. In our world, the Justice League looks up to the JSA as the forefathers, the people that led to this. What happens, though, if you don't agree with what the JSI were doing? Now we've got a conflict where they don't respect those people. They look at them as more...
police state,
more
definitely.
like dictators almost.
Yeah, and I really dig the difference between the League, and I had to laugh when I saw Luthor was a member of the League. A world without Superman has Luthor being a good guy, and I truly believe that Luthor probably was a good guy. He probably wasn't just pretending to hang out with them. He was actually probably doing what he always said, to Superman. If it wasn't
What's best for humanity,
right? I was like, oh man, this is. I chuckle every time I see that. Every time I see Luthor as a good guy, because there's no Superman. I'm like, makes you wonder, all the good stuff he's done, what's the balance there? I'm like, is there any way we could have a good Luthor and a good Superman together? What would have taken for that to happen?
I don't know.
That's something I'd like to see.
Right. Is Superman to be evil?
No, Superman good and Luthor good.
I don't know.
What would happen if you could have a world where Lex Luthor was a good guy and Superman was a good guy? Those two working together.
His fear of the alien, though. He's for humanity, not necessarily for aliens. If you notice on his Justice League, there weren't any aliens.
Right.
So he's all for humans. It's the alien issue that really gets him. Because I think all the aliens are on the JSI, right? Like Corey?
Yeah.
Corey's on the JSI.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, which Luthor's against. So it's interesting. It's an interesting little comparison. Some people I want to talk about Alfred. This world shows what Alfred's life would have been like if there was no Bruce, where he's an adventurer. He's that person that Bruce becomes, sort of. You know what I mean? Alfred's influence would lead Alfred to be this like swashbuckling kind of treasure hunter, kind of adventurer kind of guy. Freddy.
Right, Freddy. Beagle.
Yeah, but when he when the scroll gets to him, he's the first one that starts to remember the other world. He remembers his son.
He remembers Bruce,
yeah.
And I was just.
And I take that as he remembers his son.
Yeah, and just that whole dealings with, when Taro and him meet and they start talking, and he starts more refreshing. And then in 25, when he starts the recruitment process,
call me Alfred.
That was
no longer
right.
Freddy. Call me Alfred.
Right, he's coming back,
right.
And I literally cheered out loud when I read that when they started, the recruiting process. Gets Lois Lane, who is still a reporter, but she's got that hard edge to her. She's lost in a way her humanity that Clark brought to her, that Clark kept alive.
It shows that their relationship is
right.
very. I don't want to. Symbiotic's might not the right word, but kind of symbiotic in the sense that I think they both bring something to each other.
Yeah, and it's partially like the Kansas Farm Boy, the innocence of Clark's Kansas Farm Boy, but it's also the inspirational savior that Superman was that let her see there is good in people. She held on to that, which she lost in this world because she didn't have it. And just like with Richie Grayson.
Oh, yeah.
He becomes a mob enforcer. This kid's got skills and abilities, but he didn't have the focus. He didn't have the purpose.
Street smarts that he now gained because he didn't get pulled under Bruce's wing. He had to then go to the streets, obviously.
Right, and when his parents died, that's where he went to. And I was eating that up, just the little change to him. There's still a little bit of Grayson in there, but there wasn't completely that.
It's almost like he went the Jason path. He's more like the Red Hood now because, Bruce didn't catch Jason at the right time. Jason was already this street-smart kid when Bruce tried to pull him in and hopefully change his world around him.
Here's the thing I found really interesting. When Alfred is sitting there talking to them and telling them about their life, each one had a vision that was very similar to what the truth was, but it was slightly twisted. Like Lois, when she's talking to Lois, she sees herself flying alongside blonde-haired, blue-eyed, superhuman
with a star on it. He looked like he was like Mr. America or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yes.
And when he's talking to Dick, Dick's seeing him side by side. They're both gun-toting. But, Dick still was wearing the red, Bruce was wearing the black, but they're both shooting it up because that's his life. He doesn't think bad. He doesn't think that.
Nemesis saw Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Nemesis was spot on.
Yeah. Because he's more of a terrorist without her, but it's like, oh, no, that's her.
Here's the one thing I do kind of question with Nemesis. Now, I kind of...
viewed that way, at least.
Right. I kind of would rather... Because I saw Nemesis in this alternate world as just being a checkmate pawn. He's part of the game. I would rather have seen him be more of a cold-blooded killer, an assassin for hire, without Wonder Woman influence. Because we saw Diana, he became Nemesis.
That's kind of how I took it,
Diana.
though. When they referred to him as a terrorist, I took it more that he was like a gun for hire.
Okay, see, I took it more he was like a checkmate pawn, not a terrorist.
Okay. I mean, we guess we kind of read that a little differently.
And if that was the case, if that was her intention, then cool, because that's what I'd rather see. Because you saw Nemesis, Diana kind of brought out the make the right choice. She was an inspiration to him. He went against the company orders. He, betrayed, not betrayed really, but he didn't follow the orders of, spying on the Amazons. He trusted Wonder Woman. He trusted Diana Prince. He trusted the various people around Wonder Woman who she considered her friends. So I kind of wanted to see him a little bit harder, a little bit colder without Wonder Woman.
What do you think of Barry Allen?
Dude, that was outstanding. The reveal that Barry formed the League. And he formed the League because of what he was seeing the JSI do. And they were fighting Felix Faust, and some mystic rocks kind of got embedded in his leg so he could never run again.
But he chose to stay that way.
Right. Because he saw what was going on. He needed to slow down. He needed to focus on the justice aspect of the heroes. And I was like, ooh, that's a cool thing. That's a true Barry Allen. That's a Flash thing.
So here's kind of where, this is when they introduced Tom Tresser. To introduce Tom Tresser with perhaps a bit more grace, I'd call him a vigilante with standards, an insider who stepped outside to target those who abused the system at the expense of innocence. And this world, there are plenty of those. So I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, see,
he's got the scales.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah,
but I kind of see what you're saying too.
Yeah, and I don't mind him as he is because it's he still would have it. I don't know. I just want him a little bit colder, but they didn't need because they already had Grayson going that, they had Lois going that. So had they gone one more to it, it could have been considered overkill. So I'm not that too bad on that, but talking of course about Supergirl. That was a cool thing, making her interceptor, and she was found by Navy SEALs, and that's how she was basically raised. So naturally, she's more of a, kind of like that hoorah, hard-hitting attitude. And they showed a flash of Donna Troy as the mousy, librarian who everyone's just basically walking all over. She didn't have the confidence that is Donna Troy. So I was like, oh. So yeah,
and that's where we left off with the cliffhanger. So I'm curious to see. Actually, I haven't read it yet. What this week's looks like.
Yeah.
With Donna Troy. So we'll talk about that. What we're going to do with Trinity from now on is either every week or every 2 weeks, we're going to do more of a speeding bullet style. And we'll actually go more in depth than we even did on this particular episode. We wanted to keep this one a little bit more general, just to kind of get us caught up to the basic events of this one. But we're going to do something a little bit more in depth than what we just did now.
Yeah.
Just to kind of stay up with Trinity.
One quick thing, though, Convict. I'm so glad they're giving us more pieces of Convict story, and that he's not out of the picture yet, just because this is just a really cool character. Convict was, I don't know, we still don't know the whole story. We got enough of a background where he was on some planet, he fell in love, and it's probably the daughter of this bigwig, rich and powerful man, and either I took it that either the father had the daughter killed and blamed Convict, or the daughter betrayed Convict and then got killed, so everyone blamed Convict. I'm not sure exactly how that played out yet, but it's one of those definite stories that I'm like, yeah, I want to see more about this guy. And we have Morgan and Enigma now looking at him. Maybe he could be their third, because they need an off-world alien that's super powerful to complete the ritual, so maybe they'll go with that guy or do something there. So he's still going to be a major player in this story arc. So, definitely a nice introduction to him that is now fleshing out slowly throughout the process.
I want to talk real quick about Top 10 Season 2.
Okay, cool.
And just keep it kind of general. This is a book that you never, now if I'm correct, you've never read any Top 10.
Never, right? At all.
That's why I wanted to give you the first issue and just kind of have you take a grasp at it, because it really wasn't, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Jim, I find this Season 2 to be very accessible to a new reader in the sense that it kind of gives you everything you need to know about the Top 10 universe right away in the first issue. It starts off with a murder mystery. Basically, it's a police force of superheroes. And in previous iterations of Top 10, they've kind of dressed according to their powers and things like that, and they haven't had to maintain a police uniform, so to speak. Well, now all of a sudden, under their new leadership, they kind of do. They have to conform to the other ones. They've been kind of like the more laid-back precinct, and now they've got to kind of tighten up a little bit.
Yeah, and it's funny, because I hadn't read anything on it, picked that up, read it, enjoyed it. So naturally, I've added it to my, okay, I got to start picking up this, see what,
you want to read it beyond it then?
Yeah, I want to read beyond. I want to read the first season now. It's something I want to just pick up and read. And it's, you talk about like this, the laid-back police force, and there's just so many different cops that I've met in my life that if they could get away with wearing a Hawaiian shirt and jeans, they would.
Right.
Just because these guys want to be relaxed. They want to be comfortable. And if you're a superhero, you want to wear a snazzy outfit. You don't want to wear the blues. You don't want to wear the boring, regular outfits. You want to look cool. You want to look stylish. Yeah.
There is a certain aspect of that where you want the personality to shine through. But I like this whole concept of superhero, I guess, cross-dressing, where, it's a betrayal to wear, like, a different outfit. Like, it's the Green Bolt. He's wearing this outfit. Being top flight is stressful. So obviously Top Flight's like this superhero that's kind of, your Captain America-ish, your Superman-ish, he's like a role model kind of thing. So he lets his hair down as a different hero, the Green Bolt, who wears one of the creepiest looking costumes that...
here's the thing. The costume's not green. How is he called the Green Bolt if his costume's not green?
It's a little bizarre.
That to me... Now, is that... I took that as a female costume that man was wearing.
Well, that's the way I took that, too.
Okay.
Because he's wearing pixie boots like Robin would wear. But I love the fact, and here's the detail where it goes real crazy. It looks extra creepy because of the amount of body hair he has.
Yeah.
I mean, the little tiny body hairs on his legs. I can see it. And here's the problem. His wife, I'm guessing it's his wife, has walked in and she just had a pregnancy test. She's there to give him the good news that she's pregnant and sees this.
Yeah, that'd be a definite...
and if you look at his picture, they've got his picture right here as Top Flight. You see him in there. He is, and she's like, in the picture, she's like mooning. They got the moony eyes on him. She's like all excited, to be near him. But then in the next page, you see the other shoe drops.
I feel bad for her. It's one of those things. When I first read that, I was like, wait, what are they doing? And then later on, when they explain exactly, he was cross-dressing, I'm like, oh my God, that is just such a cool thing to do with superheroes. This is a different way to have a cross-dressing tranny type, hero. And maybe a midlife crisis, maybe a little bit stressed out, but still, dude, come on, that's just a wrong outfit.
Now, here's the part that how do you respect a new commissioner, David Moon Gilbert, who doesn't even come to meet you in person? Like, in a police job, your boss is somebody that, in the best precincts, I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong here, you would need, especially with the fact that you go out and risk your life every day, you need to respect your boss. Your boss doesn't even have the common decency to show up because he's afraid of extra-dimensional travel. Now, you're having us go out in the field where we're going to be risking our lives, but you can't. You send down a robot to talk through.
Yeah, that's really a bad thing to do because
how are you going to build morale?
Yeah, and you can see it, and that was one of the things that it read so wonderful for me because you have this guy that it's come on, you're not in it with us. Yes. You don't expect your commissioner, your lieutenants, your captains to kick in doors with you. But you want to expect that they would be there if they were needed. This guy, he wouldn't be there for you. He wouldn't have your back. If something went wrong, he would be the first one out of that building. So right there, you start with problem one. Two, they introduced this new character who's in the proper uniform. This is how we want you all to look. So immediately you're thinking, okay, this is our snitch. This is the
Phoenix?
spy. Yeah. And you feel bad for the guy because they even a couple of times call him IAD. He's internal affairs. Mm-hmm. He's a snitch. He's a spy. What the heck? We don't want him. So it was just like, oh my God, this was really, it read real cop to me. This had a lot of the personalities, just the personality traits, quirks, and whatnot that a police officer would have in these cops, but they're all superhuman.
I liked his relationship with Jenny. Jenny's got she's got that multiple power. She's kind of like
multiple girl,
triplicate girl. Yeah, she's got kind of that deal going on. Or who am I thinking of from over at Marvel in the X books?
Oh,
Matrix.
Yeah,
Jamie Matrix. She's got that kind of the multiple man. She's got those kind of powers going on, and she's been partnered up with him. She doesn't know yet that he's considered the internal affairs guy. She hasn't been a part of that discussion, so now she's partnered up with this guy. And I like that we got to know him. He got to defend himself, but they did a nice job of balancing this out, where you get to do a little mini introduction to everybody. It's been a while. Top 10, the 49ers was the last thing I've read in Top 10. It was a standalone hardcover, and Gene Ha's artwork, I'm almost positive, was through all of it. And our good friend Art Lyon did the coloring through... I know he did the 49ers hardcover, did the coloring on that, because we talked about it when he was on. I've got the 49ers hardcover, though.
Oh, cool.
I'll dig it out and you can borrow it and read it, because you'll want to read more of the top 10. It was one of those when the America's Best Comics line came out. I grabbed all of them. It was Tom Strong, it was this. Tomorrow Stories that we did came out of that same line. This is part of Alan Moore's kind of creating his own universe. And then when DC got in the partnership with Wildstorm, that slowly... It started at first that he was still writing them, but then something went horribly wrong. I think it was the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen movie or something. It seems to be with Alan Moore, it's film related. And you can't argue with the fact that if you haven't read League of Extraordinary Gentlemen yet, have you?
I haven't.
I think you'd see why with that one he would get mad. Because I know you like the movie, and I haven't seen it, so I can't really comment on it. But it really, from everything I've heard, it's so totally off the beaten track of what he was doing in there. I'll let you borrow League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, too.
Yeah.
I've watched bits and pieces of it on TV. I couldn't get through the whole thing. But I think that's because I read the book first, as opposed to... I think if I watched the movie, I probably would appreciate the movie in a different way.
And I'm not even in before. If anyone's listening, saying, "Jim, I didn't love the movie. I enjoyed the movie. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I've seen it the HBO way, so I've seen bits and pieces. And when it's on, I'll sit there. Oh, okay, yeah, this is a cool scene. I like this fight scene, so I'll sit and watch a fight scene. But I generally enjoyed the movie. So
here's one of my favorite lines with that Slipstream Phoenix, though. All right, fine. I'm terrified that I'll never live up to my father. He died when I was an infant. He was a cop, and he died standing up for what he believed in. He died in a blaze of glory. And so I have to do everything right. I have to keep my uniform spotless and do everything by the book, because otherwise it all falls apart, and I'll just fade away. So, that's true. I'm not here to spy. I'm here to do my job the best I can. That's also true, no matter what they say. And I love that moment where we get to see a conviction for him. He does everything prim and proper because he's holding it together. He's trying to be this man. He's trying to live up to this ideal. And that's what drives him. And he's being mistaken because of the way he is. It makes him right away. This issue, to me, it focused on so many of the characters, but he was the one I immediately connected with because he was kind of my eyes into this world again. Because he's kind of the new guy. And I would say for new readers, there's a lot here to grab onto right away. I do think... I was glad to see, actually. I'm like, you know what? When I was finishing up my notes for RIP and you walked into the room, I said, here, while you're waiting, read this. Because I knew you didn't pick it up, and I really enjoyed it. The artwork isn't the artwork gorgeous though?
Yeah. Oh God, the artwork is absolutely beautiful.
You can see why I got a Starman. And if you haven't seen my Starman commission from Gene Ha, it's on our website. If you go to ragingbolts.com, click on sketches, you'll get to see it there. Oh, is that a thing of beauty?
Yeah.
So definitely check that out. It's one of the things I'm getting framed because I want it on the wall. So it's a wonderful type of thing. That's a book I really want to talk about. Can we talk about the most recent issue of Supergirl?
Ooh, yeah. Always talk about Supergirl.
It's one of the things that I'm really liking is, yeah, these have got bulleted numbering, but it's not always that where the last issue of like these books left off. It continues right afterwards. This one focuses on Kara in this world and also shows us what's been going on with her. It goes all the way back to those crystals that were coming out of her.
I know. I love the fact they cleaned
poisoning.
It. Yeah, they fixed it. You know, that was part of the story where I was like, oh, and it even explained her mood swings and stuff like that. This is all kryptonite poisoning, and it's a final stage because when she traveled from Krypton, she had kryptonite meteors either in the rocket, in with the ship. So for the 30 years, she was exposed to it. That's why all that freaky stuff happened to her. I was like, yes, they've explained it. It's now gone and forgotten. Done.
Right. But it makes her, in many ways, she still has all the memories of everything that's gone before. So she's built a life for herself. She went through all that and overcame it. And she even said, you know, I'm okay right now. And that's what I liked about it, though. She had come to a point where she had combated it without needing Dad to do that. He was just doing it as a precautionary measure. So it corrected her views of history. It corrected the fact that she thought her dad wanted her to kill Clark, which, you know, was a nice little twist at this point. We've now painted Dad as a hero. I don't know about a hero, but a good guy, more noble.
Yeah, definitely Dad is cooler than the mom. You know, and that was something I caught from that one because the mom is giving her business. Oh, you don't need this Linda Lang you don't need a secret identity anymore. You're one of us now. You'll live here. And she's like,
these people don't even like you. Yeah. And look at this cat. Yeah. And then, you know, she's got a cat in her apartment, for example, like Streaky. And, you know, how do you give up your life? And that's what I like about her. She is the teenager now who does not want to give up her life that she worked so hard to build. Yeah. And I think we're going to see her independence in all this.
Yeah, and it's Dad who comforts her. Now, maybe it could be just the daddy's girl type thing where the dad automatically goes, oh, no, that's okay, honey, because he immediately goes in the comfort mode and kind of gets his wife to back down. You know, and I was like, okay, this is cool. I'm digging seeing her, stand up to her mother, though, saying, hey, this is my life. This is, you know, and part of, you know, the big thing that everyone's worried about is will the Kryptonians be able to adjust to humans? This right here is a sign that they're not able to adjust, where her own mother can't understand why she wants to hang out with him, why she wants to live a life like them.
Especially with them not understanding her, where she has to hide.
Right.
Crush the glasses.
Yeah.
We liked Linda Lang so much at the end of the last issue. And now all of a sudden, Mom is trying to crush that, and she's rebelling. And I love that she's rebelling against that, saying, "No, wait a minute here. I kind of, I've crafted this. This is." And I like that we got to see Lana stand up for her to Kat. Kat's looking for any way she can to smear Supergirl. She's plugging her into stories where she doesn't belong, accusing them of murder of Doomsday, where it does play into the last one. You know, saying that how do we know that?
It was self-defense. How do we know that?
Yeah,
we
didn't outright kill him.
And I love the fact that Kat's making Supergirl the leader of the Kryptonians.
Right.
And you're like, what? Wait, well, if anything, you would think Clark, Superman would be the leader.
But that wouldn't fly in the news.
Right. She wants their little thing on
Supergirl's had a history with Amazon's attack and things like that of making these decisions. So, and we already saw that referenced again with what she did with Air Force One.
Yeah.
So interesting that, they're going after her for that. So I like this. I really like this. I'm enjoying every week getting more Superman goodness. And Supergirl was right up there with it. I couldn't wait to page through that book.
Yeah, this is, I'm enjoying it.
Let's talk a little bit about the Joker hardcover.
Yeah.
This was one of those, I literally read this in one sitting. I meant to start reading, because I knew it was, obviously it's a hardcover, and it's got, this large, it's like 4 comics in one, it seems, intense page count. But I started reading through it, and I could not put this down. This is by Brian Azzarello and Lee Bermejo. And it's the same artwork that was in the Lex Luthor Man of Steel. Did you read that? Lex Luthor Man of Steel?
No, I didn't.
Okay, that's I pick up that trade because it's especially with your love of Luthor. You're going to want to grab that one. This team did a similar type of story revolving around Lex Luthor. Arkham Asylum. How in their right mind would anybody who let him out of Arkham Asylum and give him a
Joker
clean bill of
gets
health?
released from Arkham.
Right. And I love that he walks out of there and gives him the finger.
Yeah.
And Johnny Frost, to me, is the strength of this story. Johnny Frost is kind of our narrator of the piece, if you will. We follow along with Johnny, and we get to see the Joker from Johnny's view. Oh. Johnny's looking at the Joker as his big time.
Yeah.
I'm hanging with the Joker now. I'm hanging with Killer Croc. I'm hanging with people who have names that matter. I'm somebody now because I'm with these people. And he doesn't veer from that. And he's fiercely loyal.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. Even to the point where all the craziness is going on around him. And Johnny's at a point where his wife, their relationships veered. She's given him divorce papers and all that. And Johnny's given an opportunity by the Joker at a certain point in the story to go back and grab anything of importance from his life. And he makes the decision right then and there that, no, that life is done.
Yeah.
I'm walking away from it.
Yeah, I one of the things with this story, by having it be told from Johnny Frost's perspective, we never truly learn what's going on inside the Joker's head, which I love about a Joker story, because we will never truly understand or comprehend whatever that man is thinking or why he does it. All we can do is see what he's doing and try to figure it out for ourselves, and John's trying to figure it out, and we're all just, no one knows what the man's going to do or how he's going to do it. Now, for me, here's the thing. When I first read this, I immediately thought this was kind of like a play off of the Dark Knight movie, because there's a lot of similar looking.
The Joker's art style was clearly the Joker from the movie, but it easily could be our Joker.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know where I read it, but I read that they came up with this concept for this story before the movie. It just so happens he fits in with what the Dark Knight was. This wasn't created after the movie and made to fit the movie. This was just their creation on it. Their kind of take on some characters, because Do you
think they modified the artwork though to match the movie then?
I don't think they did, but I'm not 100% certain. Someone who's read this, maybe if out there that knows, can further correct. But I thought it just happened to be more of a giant coincidence.
It doesn't matter to me either way. I don't mean it like as a negative.
Right.
One thing I really appreciate about it, I think this is for anybody who's a Joker fan.
Yes.
Like if you got, I ordered this for my buddy's birthday, buddy Bill. His birthday just came around, and he reads comics extremely casually. So he loved the Dark Knight movie, so I grabbed this for him.
Oh, God, yeah. If this is a book where if you did love that pick this up, because this fits right in after the movie with some slight changes, but they kind of twist and change around the appearance of the characters.
But I also read this, like, I'm reading the current Batman comics. This could take place
He fits there as well.
So it's kind of a universal Joker story that can fit any fan. If you're there. Right. So if you got a friend that's a fan of the medium, I would easily pick this up for it. It's gorgeous. Yeah. It's really a gorgeous looking book.
Yeah, and I digged what they did with Riddler. They modified the Riddler. They made him a little bit more mainstream. And that's actually, if they were to do the Riddler in the movie, I would want something like that.
I do too.
Where it's not the over-the-top, cartoony, big question marks all over his outfits. Yeah, he's got a little bit of swagger to him. He's got a little bit of style to him. He's kind of punked out a bit. It's definitely. I was like, wow, that's a cool Riddler. I'm liking this guy. I could see that character in a movie.
What about Harley?
Yes.
I really like what they did with Harley in the strip club scene and all that, where the whole point of the whole thing was for Harley to kind of blend in. And you could imagine with her, she got together with the Joker because of the thrill ride that he is. It kind of met her deviant side. So to see her in this fashion, in a very sexual way, and the Joker, she's there clearly for the purpose of the Joker's getting revenge.
Yeah.
He's calling in, his empire has basically crumbled, and he's calling in all the people that took over any part of anything that he owned.
Yeah.
He skinned the guy alive.
Yeah. Dude, and it's funny because you think about it. Joker's in Arkham Asylum. He's never coming out, so let's divvy up his stuff. We'll make some money off of it. And then when he gets out, you're like, oh, crap. And even the guys who are like, hey, here's your stuff, sir. We're not going to, hey, we held on to it because we thought you'd never get out. You're out, so here it is. And they're just giving it right over to him. No hesitation. They're still getting killed. It doesn't matter. You have a piece of his, he's killing you. I was just like, oh my God, this is the Joker.
What's lucky for Johnny Sorrow is, for some reason, the Joker sees an honesty to him and sees somebody he can mold. And he's entertained by that at the moment.
Yeah.
Because he wants to take back everything, and he's looking for somebody to help take him back, and he knows that Johnny Sorrow is one of those guys that he can kind of fit into there. So he's finding humor in all this. It is very real, though, when Two-Face later talks to Johnny Sorrow about it, that he's right. This will be the death of you. Johnny, you are going to die, like anybody else who's associated with the Joker. I think back to the original Batman movie. You know, Bob.
Yeah.
You know, Joker's best sidekick in that movie gets killed. You know, and I'm going to need me a minute. You know, it's one of those things that is constantly fit with the character, but he's entertained with him. He's turned on Harley. Or, you know, there's been moments where he's tried to kill Harley.
And I just, that's the thing with him. Why I always ask myself, any good Joker movie, book, movie, any like story, Joker story, always has me asking the same question. Why would anybody want to partner up with the Joker? You can't trust this guy. You know, he's not loyal. Even loyal to money, because he doesn't give a damn about money. It's about the adventure. It's about the fun. It's about the ride.
Tell me you don't feel like he is loyal to Johnny, as the way the story's... Like, I actually understood it through Johnny's story with him. There were moments, they had some interesting moments together where the Joker was like giving him advice and was like taking him under his wing. And I could see the attraction of Johnny saying, the Joker's connecting with me. The Joker. I get it when I see those moments.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You got to know in the back of your head that at any moment it can change like that. It's snap, you know, just on a dime. You know, and that's the thing that the whole Harvey stuff was telling him. He's going to kill you. He's going to watch you die, and the last thing you'll hear is his laughter. Because there's no loyalty there. He will turn on you. He will see you die.
But it's the edge thing, I think. You're living on the edge of the Joker. It's got to be, to a certain extent, for people in that, like, for me, that would never appeal to me. But I can imagine somebody who likes the thrill, likes that sense of adventure on that end. He would be one nonstop like, he would never be boring.
Oh, God, no. Yeah, but you're also wondering every moment of your life, is this the moment I die?
There are moments, though, where, like, he gets deep. Like, you know, he's fishing. That moment where he's fishing. And it's just such a bizarre thing where he's sitting there and it's like the calm. I could see him, Johnny, being like, okay, Joker, like, is willing to, you know, like, let his hair down around me. And I get this guy in a way nobody else does. Because I get the impression that Johnny really thinks he knows the Joker.
Yeah, Johnny's starting to think that. But by the end, Johnny does realize, like, I never understood anything about the man.
No.
You can never understand him.
No, in the end, he unfortunately finds out by the circumstances and the events that he got himself in a situation with the ultimate agent of chaos.
Yeah.
You know, that I fell for the trap. He fell for the Joker trap. I like what do you think about Killer Croc's art styling in this?
I like that. That was cool. He was just like a big guy with a skin condition, so it kind of looks like alligator. He's not a mutant type creature. Which for me, I was like, okay, that's neat. We've seen that before in some stories and whatnot, so it wasn't a big surprise to me. I kind of like it a little bit better than the mutant type thing because in the Batman universe, for some reason, I'd like to think more of realistic stuff and not the far edge supervillain type stuff. Yeah.
It was funny, as the storyline continued, we had that whole sequence in the restaurant, that Bella room, or Bella Ron restaurant, and the Joker walks out afterwards after shooting everybody, and seems to, like, unload all the bullets from the gun. There's one still in there. He flips it around and sticks the thing in his mouth and pulls the trigger. He plays Russian roulette with himself for no reason, and that was the part where you see the best look in Johnny's face. I don't know what he was thinking. or even if he was, Joker, I was learning, wasn't about thinking. And he was. It's all about doing. And I think that's the part where he was attracted to him, the action.
Yeah.
The doing things. Because, obviously Johnny was probably making money during all this. And
maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And his life was a mess anyway. So to find this guy who was making, because his life was out of his control. Look what happened to his wife. She left him, divorce papers and all that. His life was out of control. And in this case, the Joker was kind of, there would be an attraction to a big FU to the whole world, which is what the Joker was doing. I liked when Killer Croc put him on the hook.
Yeah. Well, he tries to cop an attitude with Killer Croc, that ain't going to fly. No. It doesn't matter that you're working for the Joker. Croc knows that, you're not protected by the Joker. He could have right there snapped his neck. Joker wouldn't have cared.
No. As a matter of fact, not at all. Joker wouldn't have had an issue with the Croc at all. I actually like the moments when Killer Croc was late and the Joker was like, that's all right, man. And he made a whole joke out of the whole thing as well. It was funny that I liked the Joker's view of Two-Face. When he was calling Two-Face on the phone, everyone was assuming that Two-Face wouldn't answer. And the Joker's like, it depends on which Harvey I get.
Yeah.
In that sense of duality. And that shows that the Joker knows through years of working with them that that would be a major distinction in this. Which that means to me, that means that it can't be the movie Joker anyway, because
right.
the movie Harvey is no more.
Yeah, that's why I said let's slight changes. It could be.
Did you, as you were reading all this, did you miss that there was no Batman? Until, very end, obviously.
End. Well, I kind of like that. The fact that, you had to have Batman in a Joker story. But this was a Joker story. And throughout the whole time, Joker's figuring Batman's watching him. Now, who knows where Batman actually was during all of this stuff, why any of this craziness actually was able to happen, because Joker kills a lot of people in this. They're all bad guys. I think there may be a couple innocents in there, but as a main thing, it's all like mob guys and, various people running various rackets. But if Batman was around watching him, he wouldn't have let those things happen. So we don't know why or where Batman is until the end, but... Did
you think Johnny was thinking of ending his life after Harvey's meeting? Where he was standing up on the edge of that building?
Yeah, he thought about jumping.
He had to make a decision as far as, do I jump? Do I side against Joker? What do I do at this point? He shows up to the meeting, and we get a replay of the Killer Croc segment. But it was a lot funnier this time because he walks in and says, "You're late." That a problem? Thinking that he's going to pull off the Croc line. Joker kicks him square in where the sun don't shine. And I love that whole moment because, Johnny, I don't have any problems. None. Zip. Zilch. Nada. Unless, wait, are you saying that you're my problem? No, Joker, I was just kidding. Oh, well, then so was I. Johnny almost died there.
Yes, he came seconds
Joker
away
had the
from
gun
dying.
right in his ear, then on the back of his head. Woo. Harley has some interesting outfit changes through all this, which I found a little bit bizarre, in a good way. Because she does this leather coat thing quite often. We don't always see her in the Harley outfit, which I liked seeing. To me, it would make sense that Joker would have an attraction to her because they did have her as a very, she wears more of a casual, where we've seen Harley, for example, as a doctor, as a psychiatrist. My experience with Harley is Harleen Quinzel, Dr. Harleen Quinzel. Usually when we see her out of costume, we see her in a business suit type of thing where or a lab coat or something like that. To see her when she's out of costume in public with the Joker, and to see that sexy side to her, I get the attraction to her that he would have.
Oh, yeah.
When she's more in that mode. I liked that. It was an interesting little aspect at that point. I agree with you on the Riddler. He had that interesting little outfit and look about him as well. What about the drive-by? Where he and Johnny walk away, but just narrowly?
Yeah. That's the Joker.
Yeah.
If you're going to kill him, you better bring everything you have against him. Because he'll find a way to survive. And you will regret it afterwards.
The interesting part is, Joker... Did you read that the Joker saved Johnny?
Well, Johnny saved the Joker.
Well, yeah, because of the bullets to the head. But,
right.
Afterwards, then the Joker, when Johnny seems to fall on him, he had to have carried him out of there, which doesn't fit the Joker. It was
right.
I kind of get, and I guess my point there was, there's these moments where, like, Johnny, right, he saved Joker's life. But not only that, like, during that hug in that moment, it's like Johnny clutches onto the Joker for some reason. And I there was an interesting relationship between the two that I'm trying to get my handle around how I'm trying to explain it. Like, I really got in this one why Johnny was so enamored by the man. And I think it's the strength of the Brian Azzarello's writing in this, that Johnny was in awe of the Joker.
Yeah, there is the sick hero worship type stuff where you can see somebody that is just a monster or megalomaniac and have that attraction to him.
Normally when we see Joker stories, and I guess this is where the distinction is for me, I've got it now. Normally when I see Joker stories, we've got Joker's generic thugs that tend to follow him around. They're usually wearing some goofy outfits, whether they're clown suits or they're wearing little yellow coats or something like that designate them as his thugs. We never really get to see, like, other than the financial aspect of it, why they would be hanging with this man when we know what you're saying, historically they would just die. In this segment, we see a really long stretch with Johnny with this guy where it's not just the Joker having these insane robberies and these insane, tricks that he's pulling throughout Gotham. There's downtime where we see Johnny with Joker having real conversations, where Joker's getting deep with him. And that's the bit where I think when you were talking about that, I said, no, I get Johnny on this one, and I get their relationship in a way that I probably haven't before, or maybe in a long time, seen the Joker written with somebody. Because they're really getting deep here. It reminds me of Killing Joke. What was so good about Killing Joke at the end, when Bruce and the Joker are talking, they have this deep moment where they analyze their relationship. And you get to see the Joker really kind of get philosophical. And he's really a brilliant man. He's crazy, but he's brilliant too.
Yeah.
And that's the danger of this man, is that when you got a crazy person who's that smart, it's almost infectious. I just really dug this. It's something where I would say if you didn't pick this up because of cost or whatever reason, you're missing out on something. There's an intense amount of story in this whole thing. And how it all plays out with Johnny finally realizing what he got himself into at the end. Do you think Johnny would have done anything differently?
No. He laid out, this is who he is, and this is what he did.
I don't think if Johnny had to do over again, it would have gone any different.
Exact same.
Yeah. I think his life would have still fallen apart the same way. It would have led him to the Joker. I think he understands the Joker more at the end, but I think he still would be glad that he was with the Joker. Jim, seeing as it's Thanksgiving, I thought we'd end off this segment for what we are thankful for. To me, it's been a great year of comics, which really, you and I do this. You worked today. You were sick yesterday. Because remember, Jim called me up, for those who don't know, on the phone, and this is Jim. This is the kind of guy Jim is. Jim called me up on the phone yesterday and said, dude, I just want to let you know, I'm sick. I'm thinking of you. I want to know how you want to record the show. So it wasn't even a matter of, you weren't calling up to say, dude, I'm sick. I need a couple days off. I don't want to record the show. You were calling up to say, us being in an enclosed room and all that, I don't know if it's good for you. Yeah. So here we are in an enclosed room together. But no, it really was one of the things that Jim is always here for the show, which is interesting. And it's something I'm thankful for with you. But I think we do this every week. And I know we do this every week because of the comics we're reading. We get excited to do this. We threw together a whole segment today and put a lot of time into it for that Batman 681 because of how great the comics have been. And I think that that's an ongoing theme. We talk about DC on the show, but we're reading comics, both of us, that are outside of DC that we're also enjoying. This has just been a wonderful medium. And hopefully those of you that are listening to this show are changing up your lists of things that you pull to try and find the kind of lists that will give you the kind of enjoyment that we get. So even if you don't agree on the things that we're liking, I'm hoping you're changing things up a bit to find that kind of list, because that's what I'm thankful for this year. It's been a banner year of comics for me. There's been nothing that I've picked up that I've regretted picking up in any way, shape, or form. And that's probably one of the, we spend a lot of money on comics every month, and as long as I can keep saying that, I'm a happy camper. So that's kind of a good thing. What about you? What are you thankful for this year? Anything you can...
Well, I am thankful for Tylenol Cold. It's really helping me out right now. I'm really thankful for the show. Just this show in general, because it's really an enjoyable process. Sometimes the prep can get to me. I'm like, oh, God. But once we sit down in the chairs, once we start talking, we have fun. And this is just, 4 hours just flew by. Well, actually, more than 4 hours. We've been recording for a little bit over 4 hours now, but it's just flew by. And I'm doing this with a stuffed up head cold, and after a full day of work.
Kudos to you. All kidding aside, kudos to you.
But I still feel good talking here, because we're just hanging out, we're laughing, we're joking, we're having a ball with this. So I really am thankful for this, having this show and getting to do all the stuff we do. I'm meeting and getting to know people around the country, around the world, other comic fans, get to meet, them at different cons we go to. It's just been a really cool thing. I look back, past 2 years, man, and just think, how different my life would be if I didn't have this hobby.
Yeah.
If I didn't get brought back into comics. And it's hard for me to imagine not reading, the comics I'm reading, not having, Secret Six, not having this really cool, Superman story arcs that I'm reading, not having Robin and the Titans, and just this escape for me to go to when I need it.
You touch on something. There's special storylines too that where they make me go, wow. They're still amazing me at this point. I remember when Hush came out. I'm just talking about Batman stories alone. When Hush came out, I was kind of blown away by all that. And then, this R.I.P. storyline, I'm reading that. Face to Face, when it came out, I was blown away by that. There's storylines, for just Batman alone that just kind of like, I've read Batman since I was a little kid. Now I'm pushing 40, getting close to 40. And I'm still, after all this time, over 30 years of reading Batman, finding storylines that still amaze me with this character that I've grown up with, that still make me feel like a kid again. It's one of the things I'm thankful for with this industry and just the creative talents that are in there, that they can still keep something that has been so special and important to me fresh. And I don't know how they do it, but at the same time make me feel like all that reading that I've done is important. Because, they're pulling in elements from when I was a kid, especially when you see Talia and the sun and all that. I'm like, what, this is all back again? What? And it's cool? I like that. I mean, it's really just one of the things about this industry that's great. I got to echo your comments on listeners and friends of the show and just anybody who we've come in contact with at conventions that have just taken the time. Anybody who's taken the time, whether you listen to the whole show or portions of the show or skip around or whatever you do, whether you participate in the forum, emails, whether you send us a voicemail or not, any of the things that you've done, that to me, I agree with you, is a highlight to all this. Because when we first started this, I remember when our first show, I go to Jim, Jim, we got 50 people listen to this episode. And those are all estimates and all that. I don't know, how we go through Liberated Syndication, which is just a wonderful service, and I've got no complaints about them at all. The stats system that's on there, I check the numbers, I will admit, because I'm curious to see what episodes people are more interested in. It helps drive, like, wow, this episode had a lot more downloads. Well, why? And I'll try to do that. Or when we split a show, I'll take a look at, the first part do the same as the second part. Well, why or why not? And, I try to pay attention to those trends with you guys. And for some crazy reason, a majority of you will keep coming back to these episodes that we do, these omnibus ones, and I want to thank you for doing that. It really does mean a lot, because I do pay attention to, like, when we split shows and seen drop-offs when we've done that. For some reason, when we do big shows, a majority of you, even if you're somebody that goes, guys, I can't devote time to your whole episode, you'll download and you'll pick the segments you want to listen to and join us. That means a lot to us. So whatever way you listen to our show, whatever way somebody mentioned on the forum that they chop up our show using an MP3 program for that. Whatever works for you and how you enjoy this, if you listen to a half an hour show or to all the segments, I don't care what. Thank you for doing that. It makes the fact that Jim and I sit down and, just to give you an idea, for a 4-hour show of this, I spent the whole day today preparing for this. I literally was up this morning at 9 o'clock. I did not stop until Jim got here. So, and you got here at what, 6?
Yeah.
I stopped and I had a sandwich. So I worked the whole day on prepping for the show because of my stuff at my job. I just did not have the time, and I knew I was going to be off work today. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to put the whole day in. It's going to be all Raging Bullets. So I put together all of my stuff, any of the thing I gabbed about today. I spent the whole day working on this. I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back or anything like that. It's more so in the sense that we do this work, we prepare these shows because of the fact that you come back every week. And thank you for doing that. It means a lot to us. We do notice. If we missed an email of yours or if we didn't get something on the show, we try to, obviously voicemails, we've been more voicemail heavy at the moment. You taking the time to comment or be a part of the show on any level has been very important to us. And you guys are, really, so I guess it's one of the things I'm thankful for too. I'm thankful to my wife.
I'm thankful to your wife as well, because if it wasn't for her, we would not be doing this.
You obviously, like I said, you people don't have any idea behind the scenes how much of a trooper you are. I ball bust you probably every episode. And if you'd known Jim and I for as long as we've known each other, it's our relationship. We do this all the time, off the air and on the air. Anybody who's met us in person will know that this is how we are. And Jim knows that I'm full of it whenever anything that I ever say remotely derogatory about you, I'm completely full of crap. But it's part of the fun, though. It's, all in good nature and all that. But Jim really is this show. If I've ever at any point in time implied in any way this is my show on any episode, I think you naturally think that when you edit things together and all that, this show would not work without you.
Yeah, and I couldn't do a show without you, dude.
Yeah.
We are Raging Bullets, and that's the thing. Yeah. It's neither one of us could do a show.
It was a happy accident.
Yeah, I know.
Because, it wasn't like when I originally planned this, way back when I originally started this, we did the first thing together. You weren't supposed to stick.
Yeah.
And it just happened, and that's been the nice thing about this. And you're right, I wouldn't change a thing. Honestly, if either of us had to stop doing this show, the show would stop.
Yeah.
Because I would probably do another podcast, but I would not do this show without you because it wouldn't fit. It just wouldn't work. And that's been kind of the fun of it. So thank you for everybody for listening, kind of this little tirade and all that. I just want
a little bit.
Okay.
We'll end this up with Happy, Happy Turkey Day. Hunger pains will go away when you hear the pilgrims say it's Happy Turkey Day. From the Addams Family Values. That was a little song.
I didn't remember that.
I had to look it up. I was
Did you really?
Yeah, I was like, I remember there was a song from there. I'm like, what is it? So
did you really look that up just for the purpose of singing it on the show?
Yes. And I've been having it here, trying to figure out a time when I could pull it out.
Again,
like
I said, this show would not work without you.
I had to have some singing.
It's that type of insanity. I like the stuff that you do that I have no idea you're gonna do that just comes out of nowhere. You're insane.
Holy caffeine!
Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. We want to remind you that Simon Dark number 16, regularly $2.99, 40% off, only $1.79. Batman, the False Faces trade paperback, regularly $14.99, 40% off discount, only $8.99. Don't forget our In-Stock Trades book of the month, Doom Patrol Volume 2, Painting That Ate Paris, written by Grant Morrison, art by Richard Case and John Nyberg, collecting issues 26 to 34, regularly $19.95, 47% off, only $10.57. In-Stock Trades and DCBService.com remain your sources for your collected and pre-ordering needs. So definitely check out those websites for that purpose. Jim and I are both frequent users of both sites. Since we recorded with this, I've had a conversation with Simulated Stereo, and he's got a 14-hour time difference, so we were able to schedule a date where we'd be able to record. Unfortunately, it won't be in time for our next week's episode. It will be the following week on 143. So we're going to kick off Doom Patrol on 143 for sure. I just wanted to let everyone know that and have a quick heads up. Next week, for sure, we're going to start talking about Wonder Woman Rise of the Olympian. The first issue came out this week, so we're going to be chatting about that. And we have a whole bunch of other stuff that we've been tossing around that we'd like to chat about, including some interviews. We're going to see if we can kind of work out and get into place for that episode. But we'll definitely have a lot of content coming to you. Check the forum and the website for more details. We have a whole bunch of things we're tossing around, and we'll see how that pans out over the course of the week for next episode. But we're going to be closing out today's episode with our listener voicemails, so definitely check those out. Jim and I recorded some comments to them. We have a long overdue audio comment from Brent Cassina. It's on Smallville Season 7. It was the introductory comment that he recorded for that. It's actually from kind of a Raging Bullets Lost episode, which there's more details on that in the voicemail line because we never actually got to record that episode, which is why that audio comment's been kind of hanging in limbo. It's been one of those like, okay, where are we going to put this thing? Because we never really did the show that we were supposed to do that was going to attach with it. So anyway, that's going to be on this episode as well at the end. So kind of a fun little blooper reel for you guys to enjoy. And hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday weekend if you celebrate it. If not, I hope you just have a wonderful weekend anyway, and hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Hey, Sean and Jim, this is Craig. I'm not a member of the forum, but I'm an avid listener. I just have a little mini rant to get through before I talk about something you mentioned in Final Crisis Resist. All right, you were talking about how they were DC was bringing the Milestone characters into the broader DC universe. The character's name is Static, not Static Shock. It irks the hell out of me when I hear people who should know better call a character Static Shock when his name is Static. Alright, so just remember that for future reference. Alright, in Final Crisis Resist, there's a sequence when you were explaining it after Snapper and Cheetah had their moment and Grodd broke in. When the way you described it and the way I read it were completely different. I don't remember there being a time when either Snapper or Cheetah went for Grodd's helmet, because when you were describing it, you mentioned the fact that, well, what would happen if the helmet were removed and would it cause any kind of damage, either physical or neurological or both. But when I actually read it, neither of them went for Grodd's helmet. Snapper was mentioning the fact that if he teleported Cheetah out of Grodd's grasp, the fact that he teleported her with him might kill her. But neither of them went for Grodd's helmet or tried to remove it, so I'm kind of confused as where you saw them trying to remove the helmet and how you came to the conclusion that you thought they were removing it and it would cause Grodd any kind of pain. So that was just confusing to me. I'm just kind of wanting to hear where you guys were with this, and because obviously you saw it differently than I did. So just keep up the good work, guys, and I will keep listening. Bye.
I remember our conversation. It was funny. When he was saying that, I was like saying to myself, because you brought it up when we were doing the Resist conversation, and you brought it up, and I'm like, okay. And I remembered seeing it, too, when you said it, but the reason why... Well, go ahead.
I had comics. I figured out because we just pulled it up and we were looking at the issue and we're like, yeah, they don't go for Grodd's helmet. And I'm trying to remember because I had this visual in my head of a bloody Grodd face and all this type of stuff. And it was the Booster Gold Starro issue where Booster rips the thing off of Grodd's face, rips the star off of Grodd's face. I had that image going through my head when I was thinking about
it
that.
In the episode we were talking about it, and I remember when you were doing the description, I'm like, okay, I remember seeing that. I didn't have it in my notes, but then you started talking about it, I'm like, okay, he's going on. Because I think you even said, it might have been one of those where you said, wait, dude, you're forgetting this whole part with Grodd. And I'm like, and Cheetah did go for Grodd, because you see Grodd get bloody at that point, but the helmet does stay on. He's right. But I didn't. Good catch on his part, because I didn't catch it at the time either, because I read the same Booster Gold issue you did.
So that's a meshing of the mind there. So
right. When he talks about Milestone, I never actually, my exposure to Static was from the Static Shock cartoon, which was, it's been so long since I've watched Static Shock, so I keep throwing out Static Shock, because the cartoon is more my association to him. But even so, in the cartoon, and even in the Justice League cartoon, when he was on that episode, they do refer to him as Static, not Static Shock.
Well, here's the thing. My only exposure is the cartoons, and I always thought they called him Static Shock in the cartoons.
No, they did call him Static in the cartoons. No, in fairness, he's right on that end. But as far as, I don't pretend. I've read a lot of comics. I haven't read every single comic that's out there. The Milestone line, I did read some of them, but when I say some of them, I read an issue of one, an issue of one, an issue of one. It's stuff that I got from like 25-cent bins. I'm not a Milestone expert by any stretch. You're probably going to hear me butcher a whole lot more Milestone when it's being brought into the DC Universe proper. Yeah. But that's part of the reason why we have the voicemail line for you to call in with stuff
so
like
good
that.
catch. Good catch.
Yeah, good catch. 100% correct. And in the cartoons, they did, Jim. They referred to him as Static. But I know I don't remember exactly, but I'm sure I was referring to him as Static Shock. But he's supposedly going to be part of Teen Titans, Static.
Oh, that's cool.
I would like to see that. So that's funny. The helmet thing, when you were talking about it on the show, I totally went with you. So I'm not going to even pretend that this was like your flub or anything like that. It really wasn't. You mentioned it, but then I went with it too because I remembered reading the same thing, and you're right, it's Bluester Gold we were thinking of.
That's my one mistake for 2008. I'm allowed one a year, so that's my one for this year.
Oh, that's the only one that they caught you on.
Only one I'll admit.
Hey, Sean and Jim, this is Dave, Jonesy on the forums from the Vortex podcast. I was calling to kind of geek out about the X-Files comic. I didn't really have a review prepared or anything, but X-Files comic from DC Wildstorm. Just picked it up this past week and blew my socks off. Really just brought my love of that show back to the surface because... like many fans, I was somewhat disappointed with the film this past summer, although I probably liked it better than most. But this felt more like X-Files to me. And with comics, they can do whatever they want, much like Buffy has done, Angel, and some others. And I'm just really excited about this. I believe this is a miniseries that started, maybe a 5-issue, I believe, with Frank Spotnitz writing it. So that's great, because he was a big contributor to the X-Files show when it was on. So I did want to say that. I also did want to get you guys' thoughts on what's going on with the Legion right now. I see that Jim Shooter's run is going to end with issue 50, and if you're like me, you're a little disappointed because this is, I knew of the Legion, but this is probably the Legion that I've collected the most since Mark Waid did the reboot a few years back, and I'm a little disappointed. Although I do enjoy the Legion of Three Worlds, and I did enjoy Superman and Legion of Superheroes, and the Lightning Saga, and all that kind of stuff. So I did like to see the classic Legion, quote unquote. But I do like this Legion as well, and I hope they don't go away completely. Maybe we'll see some of them appear in other books, or maybe at the end of Legion of Three Worlds, there'll be kind of a mishmash of Legion there to be the quote-unquote current Legion. So I did want to get you guys' thoughts on the Jim Shooter stuff. It looks like it's going to end with issue 50, and everything's going to come to a head there, and I hope they're able to wrap up their storyline pretty good. And it's pretty odd that it's ending with issue 50 when this is the 50th anniversary of the Legion. So DC's done a really good job of bringing the Legion into the forefront this year, and I hope they continue to. And I enjoy you guys' show a whole lot, and we'll talk to you soon. If you get a chance, check out the Vortex podcast. Sean, I'm sure you'll like it a lot. We talk a lot of Doctor Who and stuff like that. So mosey on over there and give it a listen. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.
It's an interesting question. The Legion stuff, you and I have both been big fans of the current series. So it is interesting to see now that the Legion is being brought back. It looks like in Adventure Comics, because they announced that Adventure Comics is going to be back with a new #1 issue, and that's where the Legion was featured before. I guess everything I'm reading, and I don't know how you're taking this, it looks like they're combining the Legions.
Yeah, I took it that by the end of Legion of Three Worlds, we're going to have one... combined, contabulated, if you will, Legion that will have... And I'm wondering if they're going to have duplicates in there, like two of one particular character, just to spice things up. So you got the two people going, two versions of...
A couple Brainiacs?
Yeah, I wouldn't do Brainiacs, because I think one Brainiac's enough, but, like two Lightning Lads, or two Lightning Lasses, or,
Are you reading the JSA one-shots?
Yes.
Did you read the Starman backup?
No, I haven't read the Starman one yet.
Okay, I'm not going to say anything.
When did that come out?
the Starman backup was in last week's,
Okay.
which was the Magog.
Okay.
Did you read that one
I
yet?
haven't read that one yet. Yeah.
Okay. Next week on the show in Speeding Bullets, we'll talk about those.
Yes.
Let's talk about all... Well, there'll be 3 of them out at that point. Because I think the Kingdom one is this week's release.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about all 3 of those and kind of chit-chat. Because I want to talk some JSA. I love JSA. So that'll be a part of next week's show for that reason. It's funny. It's ending with issue 50. And I think what the point here is they're trying to, because of the 50th anniversary, bring all of the Legions together to try and hopefully make something for all Legion fans. To bring back Legion fans of the past that maybe didn't try this run because it was a different Legion and they were demanding their Legion back. And in some ways, I think they're trying to find a happy medium where we're all happy because they're going to have all of them together. But I think it's going to be bits and pieces from all of them.
Right.
Like, obviously, we've only got one Karate Kid at the moment. So he's kind of a no-brainer.
Hey, unless they decide, hey, let's
Kill him again?
and kill him
Yeah.
off again.
Let's make it a three-peat.
Yeah. We're going for the hat trick on Karate Kid.
Yeah, because he dies so good.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm curious on this one. But, yeah, I got to agree with him on that one. The X-Files comic, did you pick that one?
I
That's
did
one
not
I did not pick up.
I did not pick that up. I usually do shy away from, X-Files stuff related just because...
Did you watch the show?
See, not really.
Okay, I like the show.
Yeah, when the show first came out, I didn't watch the first couple seasons. Then, it started, people started saying, oh, it's the greatest show ever. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to be Mr. I'm too hip for the room, and not get it just because everyone's telling me how cool it is. And I know it's...
Did that work for you? Were you hip?
Yeah, not really. So I never got into the whole X-Files thing, and it was just something I'll pass on it.
So you weren't hip?
So yeah.
Yeah. Or too hip?
Yeah, I was too hip. I was too cool to.
All right, that's cool.
To watch X-Files.
Now, see, I admit I jumped on X-Files late too, and when I got into it, I want to say it was the 3rd season, and I ended up going back and through reruns, watching everything that I missed later. But when I jumped on board, I couldn't stop. I did not see the most recent movie, which is odd because I liked it so much. I'll have to rent it because I've heard it was kind of disappointing too. What else? There was something else that was out during that time. I don't remember what. I'm drawing a blank at the moment. It was a summer release, and I don't remember because I saw everything I wanted to see this summer, but there were weeks during the summer where I could have seen this film, so I don't know why I didn't, other than I didn't hear the reviews. Movie tie-ins, I tend to shy away from movie tie-ins, but the X-Files one, I don't know why I would have shied away from, because I grabbed the Fringe one. Did you read that, The Fringe?
No.
Are you watching Fringe?
No.
Okay. Actually, the Fringe one's great, because it takes place before the television show, so you don't have to have watched the television show to enjoy it, but it takes the professor, the doctor that's in the story, and kind of explains his background, and explains the origins of this whole mysterious corporation that's in it. It's a really good background story. They kind of did what they did with Supernatural Origins, where they give you the backstory to the TV series. So it's good for people that have read them. You're going to get something. But it is actually an interesting introduction then to the series for people who aren't watching it. So it's a good comic to pick up for that end too. The X-Files one, no, I haven't picked it up, but it's funny. He's going through it, I'm like, darn it, I missed that completely, but now that he's talking about it, maybe I'll go and pick that up.
Yeah.
I do shy away, though, because TV adaptations and movie adaptations are usually hit or miss. So I will say that's an area where I've got my own... And you think I would have at least tried the first issue. Because I do tend to lean that way, but I've been burned so many times with movie and TV adaptations that I do tend to play a wait and see till I hear this kind of thing. So I do go more back issue bins with that type of thing. So it's kind of that.
Is this thing on? Hey guys, it's Brent Cassina from Comic Timing and your own, fairly unfrequent BK's Bullets. I was just wondering what comic you guys would want to plan on talking about with me next. Something I can champion on BK's Bullets, some new title that's doing really well that I'll champion, and then you guys will go, oh yeah, let's talk about that with Brent sometime, and then put it off for a year and a half, and then 2 years, and then it gets canceled. Kind of like Blue Beetle. We started at 16 for Freddie E. Williams' guest issue, and it was his birthday, and it was May, and then became, last May, and then now it's November, and the book is canceled in the next 3 months. So I was just wondering, does Booster Gold sound good to you guys next? Because that's the book I'm loving, but I just don't think it's going to make it within the next year and a half. So why don't we get together sometime and get our schedules down and plot something out where we can actually we'll set a recording date, so to speak, in air quotes. And, we'll push that back 6 months and then, back another year and then, maybe another half a year, whatever, 2 years, and then so that by the time it gets to issue 36, the book's readership will have dropping off because, the Raging Bullets crew hasn't listened to anything about it yet, so, and then they just won't pick it up. So, well, I was just wondering if that was next on your mind, getting Booster Gold canceled or maybe something else. I mean, I don't know what else we could get canceled other than Booster Gold. That's kind of new, It's just, I think that's the next one we should do, right? That's the next one we should talk about. Booster Gold is a great title. Yeah, let's kill it. Yeah. No, man, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, you guys. I'm just kidding. I'm just giving you some hard times. Hopefully you got a kick out of this. Haven't talked to you guys in a while. I'm really busy with school right now, finals, and entering my last year or being in my last year of college. It's just kicking my butt. So I was just dropping you a voicemail to give you some hard times and say hello. So I hope you guys are doing well. You guys should really finish up, what was it, American Virgin and Why the Last Man, something like that. I don't know. Ask Ian. And we'll get together sometime soon and talk. And hopefully I'll send you another BK's Bullets before the end of the year. All right, talk to you guys later. Enjoy the show. Bye.
I was so prepared to do a wah. I'm a co-host on a podcast, and I need to talk more. Wah. Honestly, if you aren't listening to Comic Timing, Brent and Ian over there do a wonderful show over on Comic Timing, so I definitely do want to shout them out. But yeah, we have been talking for ages about doing Blue Beetle, which is very true. We were talking for ages about doing Blue Beetle with them. I don't know why we can't still do Blue Beetle though.
Oh, we can still talk about it. But I think, hold on, or we should pick something that's really rock solid, like Action Comics or Detective Comics, something that when we first say we're going to talk about it,
Are you scared now though? If we schedule with Brent, it'll get canceled.
Yes, that's why I'm saying we got to pick something solid. We can't pick anything that's on the tier.
What happens if that gets canceled then?
Okay, if Action Comics,
I'm following your theory, but now I'm actually going toward Brent's way and saying if we plan to talk about it with Brent.
Right.
What happens then if it gets canceled?
See, I'm worried about the curse of Brent. There may be a curse of Brent. Yeah, I'm blaming.
So it's not us. It's Brent.
It's Brent because it was Brent wanting to talk with us about it.
And that's the good point. Here's the interesting thing: Manhunter Challenge.
Yeah.
When we did the Manhunter Challenge, Manhunter came back.
Right.
But when we wanted to talk with Brent about Blue Beetle, it got canceled.
Yeah, so we got to. If we pick anything with Brent, we got to pick something that's so rock solid that if it crumbles, the entire company
it'll escape the curse of Brent.
Right.
But does that mean that if DC Comics crumbles, it's Brent's fault?
Yes. So any slip in sales, we all blame Brent. Anytime a title gets canceled, it's Brent's fault. Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's great. So. Yeah, and we plan to actually talk with Brent also on the Blue Beetle episode about Manhunter.
Yeah, so that's a double. That's a right there.
Mm-hmm. And Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
The Comic Timing crossover we've been trying to get together.
Forever,
yes. Why? Well, the problem is, too, though, like, we wanted to do a Comic Timing crossover on Why the Last Man, which is an entire series that you haven't read.
Yeah.
So you've got to read an entire series to prepare for that episode. So it's kind of hard to do. But you finally did finish American Virgin.
Yeah,
so
I'm finished up with American Virgin, so we can do American Virgin, or... Yeah.
I'll have to talk to Ian. We'll work something out.
Yeah, I think I'm through, like, the 8th trade or 7th trade.
But that's the problem. We can't. We plan to cross over on something. An honest answer to that is we plan to cross over on something that's way too big. So... so, sorry. Blue Beetle I have no excuse for, though. We should do something on Blue Beetle, because I like Blue Beetle. And it's... Actually, you know what we should do? We should only have Brent on for already announced canceled series. So no, we can't schedule Booster Gold with you because we don't want it to be canceled.
Right, it's still active.
But if they announce a cancellation of Booster Gold, we will have Brent on to talk about it.
He's the Grim Reaper of the Raging Bullets podcast.
Hey guys, it's Brent again. Something else I wanted to give you a good ribbing about. Yeah, Smallville. So, well, season 7, audio comment still in the works, Sean. Right? You're gonna play that eventually. I was wondering if I should do one for the season 8 premiere. And that way, by the time you guys get to talk about it with Art, it'll be season 10 or the show will get canceled. Similar to Blue Beetle, I see it coming. Let's save the show, guys. Come on, let's save some books. Talk with me about them, good grief. Or just play my freaking audio comment whenever it's available. Nobody cares about season 7, but, you should just play it, for God's sakes. Just get it out there, It was a milestone for me. I felt special recording it. And then now it's gone. I'm getting torn up about it. I'm going to go back to studying stability and controls homework for the airplane stuff, and let you guys get back to whatever you're doing. Hope you're enjoying it, and Smallville, Blue Beetle, maybe Booster Gold. I don't know. You guys, come on here. Give her brother some love.
Now, Jim, on his Smallville audio comment, I don't know what he's talking about. On episode 66...
Yeah, we played that, and we talked about it. And
right.
Yeah, that was... Yeah, I'm kind of lost.
We played that
there.
whole audio comment on episode 66, and we talked about it in depth, and so I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, you got me confused on that one. We're gonna have to pull up the tracks from that and listen to it.
Yeah, maybe it got cut out or something like that. But in episode 66, we talked about that.
Yeah, I could have swore because I remember hearing it and talking about it.
Right,
it was a good. We were like, yeah, it was that was a fun one.
It was one of my favorite audio comments of his.
Yeah.
We played on episode 66 and thoroughly enjoyed it. So yeah. And for the record, for those of you that, now that Brent's probably stopped listening.
Going, what the heck?
Yeah. Episode 66 would have been our episode we made the numbering jump.
It was one of the lost Raging Bullets.
There actually is a funny story, and Brent's ball busting here, and he knows what the story was. We were supposed to record a season opening episode, and Brent sent in an audio comment for that episode. We never did a season opening episode. So I held on to the audio comment because we kept delaying it, and we just never did the episode. So his poor audio comment's like hanging out there in limbo, which I will play it at some point. He's right. It's kind of like, what's the point in playing it now? But and I do actually have it on my hard drive for the purpose of playing it on some episode and talking about it. So we'll have to do that because it's his lost audio comment. We'll put it on there. But Brett, in fairness, we've given you a ton of time on the show with BK's Bullets, and I usually air all of your BK's Bullets. That's the only one I did not air. So in fairness, I've aired every other audio comment we've been sent except for the one because we never did the episode. So there actually was no episode that we did for that one. So it's kind of funny.
Though you think about it, we could say the Casino curse is applying to Smallville because this supposedly is going to be the last season of it.
Ah, you're right.
So once again, it strikes its other.
It's the Brett Casino kiss of death.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. Were you uncomfortable in that second voicemail that he kept saying Booster Gold?
Yeah, I know. Dude, you got to stop talking about it. We want to keep that. We like that title.
You know what we'll have him on for? Legion of the Superheroes.
Hey, Brent, do you read Marvel?
I like some Marvel books. I don't want Marvel canceled. Because I do. I'm reading. And the sad part is when I did that Messiah Complex thing with David Price, it got me back into the X books.
Really?
So I've been reading those and following them.
I've been reading Exiles.
Oh, yeah. New Exiles?
New Exiles.
Yeah, that's a good series, because we picked that up when we met at Claremont. And that's a nice contained one.
Yeah.
Which is nice, because it doesn't cross over into anything. So you can kind of read that and get kind of a flavor for... We shouldn't talk about these when we're talking about a Brent.
Right.
That's going to be our ongoing thing now. When books are canceled, we're going to
blame Brent.
Yeah. Another book gets the Casino curse.
Dun, dun, dun.
And it sounds good, too, doesn't it? Yeah. Honestly, though, if you're not listening to Comic Timing, definitely check out Brent and Ian on the Comic Timing podcast, because they are a wonderful podcast.
Yeah, and they're good friends, and they know we're just
we're that really was meant when he said at the end that it was meant in that fashion. It really was, even if it does sound like he's having a busy party. The honest truth of the whole thing was we had planned to do a Smallville season opener episode. And we have a normal friend of the show who we always do our Smallville stuff with, and it just didn't work out. It just schedule-wise, between his schedule and our schedule, it just didn't work out. Those things happen, and we never ended up doing the episode. So then we had an audio comment that we kept trying to figure out where we're going to put this, and it was one of those unfortunate things where it just didn't, because it was episode-specific, we never had somewhere to plop it in. I am going to air it now. It's a really good audio comment, and especially with DVD releases and things like that, that season's out on Blu-ray now. I have it on Blu-ray. So it's one of those things where if you didn't get a chance to hear any Smallville commentary, this is a good time to throw it on there for this purpose. So I am going to put it on this episode because it's kind of the lost, a portion of the lost Raging Bullets episode that never was. So here you go, and enjoy this, and we will see you next week.
And now it's time for another installment of BK Bullets.
Hey, everybody, it's Brent Casina back again with your 1-year anniversary edition of BK's Bullets. Just like last time, in the first edition, which was as yet untitled, I will be talking about the Smallville premiere, Season 7. I figured, I was going to do something on Superman Emperor Joker trade that I bought a couple weeks ago, but then Smallville aired, and I was thinking, I've been doing this for a year. Holy crap, it's been a long time. And then it just all fell into place. I was looking at the schedule for Raging Bullets, and they're going to do stuff on Smallville, and I was like, I got to do this. So, let's get to it. This segment, I'm going to be doing the first 2 episodes, so the season premiere and the one following that, which will be the one that aired on October 4th, I think. Yeah, October 4th will be the last episode that I've seen as I'm recording this the following week before the next one on Thursday. So the premiere, we got Clark fighting Bizarro. I thought it was really cool how Bizarro is weakened by the sun, and Clark just, took him up into the sun or stuff like that, kept him in the sun's light. I thought that was really cool. I was actually kind of happy with it. I was glad that they didn't really have to use any like kryptonite type thing, or they didn't introduce like blue kryptonite or anything like that. Although we might get to see that with Kara. But Kara makes an appearance in the first episode, saves Lex. I thought the parallel was kind of interesting, how she pulls Lex from a car underwater, whereas Clark basically did the same thing, or Kip. Yeah, right, because the car went off the bridge and Clark jumped in and saved him. So now Lex has had 2 angelic kryptoniums pull him from a car in the water. Lex, you need some better insurance or something. I'm telling you, because if these kryptonians stop coming, like if Power Girl doesn't show up soon, you're going to die next time you're in a car underwater, because there are no more kryptonians left to save you. So that was kind of cool, even though we got this here for that split second, and at the end where she put on her cheesy little Superman bracelet or whatever. Let's get to Lois and Chloe, since that was the big discussion that we had on our Smallville season finale episode earlier in the summer. I mean, Lois was alive. I was kind of happy with that. I'm glad Chloe didn't die. So that, my feelings back on that other episode was that I don't want to see Chloe die, and I don't want to see her turned evil, which didn't happen. So Sean, you were wrong. I'm sorry. I do think that it is kind of weird that she just heals people and goes comatose, and I was kind of looking for something that would give Lois like that extra spark or something to become a reporter, but as we saw in the second episode, has nothing to do with Chloe at all. I don't think the show would have gained anything if Chloe had actually died, because she's the best character on that show other than Clark, now that Mom and Dad are out of the picture, basically. It's kind of sad that after, Pa Kent died, Ma Kent took over his senator position and basically left the show. I think, whatever her name is, she was Lana in Superman 3 or something like that, but that actress was really, really good, and I always enjoyed seeing her on screen, especially when Pa Kent was still alive, or Jonathan. I don't think Jonathan Schneider, I think that's the actor's name that played Pa Kent, really got enough credit for what he brought to that show. I mean, it melted Clark, but and the other thing is that I don't really think Pa Kent has to die in every Superman continuity. I think it's just getting old now. But, I mean, it makes sense in the terms of the show that, Jonathan did all that he could for his son, and that when he couldn't do anything more, the show had to move on instead of him just becoming an ancillary character, so they killed him. And it's kind of heartbreaking, too, that Clark kind of made his dad die because he saved Lana, who didn't probably even really love him at the time, but that's another story. So, Chloe and Lois are alright, they're fine, that's, I mean, it's like every Smallville season finale. They set up these big problems at the end and then solve them really quickly. I do think I was a little bit more satisfied with this season premiere than last season's with Zod. I was really, really disappointed in the way that was handled last season. So this season, he fought Bizarro. It felt like a good Superman fight. I mean, he knocked Bizarro away, and Bizarro had to recharge and come back. He had to hunt down Kryptonite, and finding that room full of Kryptonite was awesome, just fantastic. I really liked that, and him holding all the Kryptonite up to him, and sucking the life force, which is kind of reminiscent of, remember when Lana had that kryptonite necklace and somehow the kryptonite got sucked out of it and then it just became like a crystal necklace? That was really cool. So I was really happy with this season premiere. I was really like the second episode as well when we finally met Kara. The second episode started out with Lois and Clark. Yeah, that seems really weird to say. But it started out with them in the forest looking at this big red alien ship, which is basically a bigger version of Clark's ship, just a different color and all that. But it didn't have the dome thing. I guess it wasn't a baby, but... So we meet Kara, she knocks Clark down, and then eventually when Clark finds her, like, the second time, he tells her that he's a Kryptonian too, and that, his name is Kal-El. Oh, that's the one I'm looking for. And you have this whole different thing that, you're supposed to be a baby, this is all confusing, and then I thought it was really funny that... Not funny, but really different and interesting that she didn't know Krypton had exploded. I guess she was in sleep or whatever. When she was in the ship, no rear window, I can't really turn around and look in the ship and see, oh no, Krypton's gone. I thought that was really interesting. I'm wondering, though, at the end of that episode when the voice of Jor-El said that Zor-El, his brother, is not to be trusted and neither is Kara, if they're going to try to go something like the recent Supergirl comic where she's sent to kill Clark or something like that, it's really silly. I hope they don't do that. I don't want to see that out of Smallville. I'd rather just see that Kara was sent there for some reason, but not to kill Clark. Now let's get on to Lana. I mean, Lex was like in prison for the season premiere, and then at the end of the season premiere, we saw Lana, and she's in Shanghai acting like a waitress or whatever. She's wearing a wig, of course, so nobody recognized her because she's not on TV at all. But anyway, that was okay. I mean, I wasn't real pleased with that. I would have rather well, I don't know what I would have liked to see. It was just kind of weird that they put it at the very end. But it was a tease to next episode. And in the second episode, Lex actually tracks her down. And we find Lana, and it turns out that Lex had made a clone of Lana. And that was in that Area 51. This is where it gets weird for me. I don't ever remember Lana going to that dam where everything was and pulling a clone out and then setting it up in her car or anything like that. I mean, they just kind of pulled this out of the blue, which kind of works, but it was okay for what it's worth. It makes everything clear now how Jim saw the skull pop up in the body and how they identified the body, and it was Lana, and essentially it was because it was her clone. It just wasn't the real thing. So, what are you going to do? But based on the previews, it looks like she's going to go back to Smallville because Lex says, I'm not going to bother you anymore. I don't know. I want to see Clark go and find her, basically is what I'm saying. I want to see Clark go to Shanghai and search the globe to find Lana if he hears rumors that she's alive. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see Lana running back to Clark, because Clark has thought she was dead. So I want to see Clark I haven't really seen him dealing with that grief. So that's kind of disappointing that, she just faked her death and she's coming back right away. Let's get back to Kara. I thought it was really interesting how she was like, well, girls mature faster than boys or whatever, how she can fly and he can't. I just think Clark should get on that real quickly. I know it goes against the whole no tights, no flights type thing, but I don't know. It kind of defeats the purpose of that rule to say no tights, no flights in Smallville when then you introduce Supergirl and she can fly. Rub it in your viewer's face that you're never going to see Superman fly. I would have rather not seen anybody fly on that show and then have the end of the show be Clark flying. Now we're going to have a season of Supergirl flying all over the place, and Clark's just going to be on the ground watching her and kind of stuff. And it's just going to lose the effect of that Clark is, the most gifted and the most powerful person in that town, and, that whole dynamic that they've had as a show. Now there's I guess that's the reason they brought Supergirl, is to upset that dynamic, but that's the one thing that your viewers want to see, and then just to have another character do it before Clark is just really, really disappointing. But I was really happy with that episode. I like the interaction. I think the actress is pretty good. She definitely is a looker, so that continues the Smallville fashion of having good-looking people on their show. All in all, I'm really happy with the season so far. I'm looking forward to where it goes. I just wish that, Lana wasn't running back to Clark, that Clark would have to go find her. That could be like 2 or 3 episodes, or at least they drag it out a little longer. I could have gone 3 or 4 episodes not knowing how Lana died. I know it was left over from the last season finale that she died, and they kind of, Smallville has to resolve it right away so they can get on with their new storyline. But I think they could have dragged it out, and they could have had Lex kind of keeping something from Clark that Lana is alive. And Clark could have been dealing with that grief at the same time as Kara and stuff like that. And then, in the 5th episode or 6th episode, we see Lex confront Lana then. And maybe Clark can go find her at the same time or something like that, or be looking for her, rather than this immediate resolution. I mean, it was good because we waited all summer to find out what happened, but I just wanted to see something a little different. So all in all, I'm pretty happy. There's just like these minor nitpicks that I'm not happy with. But compared to last season's premiere, I think this is a much better start for it. I am going to say that I will be sad to see Michael Rosenbaum leave, as this is his last season of Lex Luthor. I'm hoping that he's not the bum that sits in a chair staring at angelic drawings of people for the whole season, that he gets evil once more, because I want to see evil Lex Luthor. He's kind of been just kind of evil or sort of evil in the past season or whatever, so I want to see Lex finish his journey before the actor leaves. And I hope Michael Rosenbaum can find something that'll pay him, as steadily as Smallville has, because, sometimes TV actors can't make that jump to films or other TV series. And he's going to be so known for, Lex Luthor and being bald, number one, that it's just going to be weird. I mean, I was watching TV the other weekend, and the Steve Martin movie Bringing Down the House was on. Michael Rosenbaum's in that movie, but, he's wearing a wig because he was bald at the time. And it's really weird to see him with hair. And he did some other movies, Sorority Boys or whatever, crappy movie. But he's wearing a wig, even when he's playing a guy instead of a girl, and it just looks terrible. I mean, whoever's in charge of his wigs when he does these other films, when he's shaved for Smallville, needs to do a better job, because it just doesn't look right. I mean, I'm scared of kind of what the next thing we're going to see Michael Rosenbaum after Smallville, because it's just going to be so different. Hopefully that'll help him break out of his shell. So good luck to you after this season. I do kind of hope the series ends with this season. I mean, I think 7 seasons is a good run. I mean, Star Trek Next Generation, 7 seasons. Star Trek Voyager, 7 seasons. Sitcoms kind of overlast their welcome with 10 seasons. Friends, I'm looking at you. I don't think the show can survive without Lex. And there's another WB show, or CW show, that, has lost a lot of its characters and was still going on as of last season or this season or whatever, 7th Heaven, where they just got into some weird storylines. Yes, I watched 7th Heaven. I did not watch the last season. I watched the original series finale before they brought it back for the 11th or 12th or whatever it was. But, I mean, Jessica Biel left that show, and they still had storylines with her character. Oh, Mary left her husband, but Mary's not in the show, so we're just going to make, this character do weird stuff without them being in the show. And it kind of just hurt the series as a whole. So if Smallville does continue next season, and Lex does end up leaving, and Michael Rosenbaum does not want to return, fine, so be it. Leave Lex alone. Kara is kind of the good catalyst for Clark becoming Superman and saying, alright, I'm going to do this for more than just Smallville now. But really, Clark needs to go back to school. I mean, he's not going to become a newspaper reporter without a college degree. He needs to go back to school. He's in like that community college or something for a season or two. He needs a degree. Clark, go back to school. So getting back to Lois. Lois now works at the Daily Planet because there's this new editor or something that, takes all these risks or whatnot. So that was kind of cheesy. I didn't really sort of like that whole angle. I don't know what I wanted to see instead of it, but it just felt really forced to me. I don't think she has to do it at the same time, but it does give her something to do now, since Oliver Queen's gone, because now she's going to compete with her cousin. So that's going to be the new dynamic for this season. And Lionel Luthor, he's presumed dead. We don't know where he is. I don't want to see him go. He's a pretty good character. And if he comes back, I want to see him on the side of good again. And Martian Manhunter, I want them to bring him around more often, because that one cameo appearance he had in the season premiere won't do me. I want to see Martian Manhunter talk to Clark about Kara or something like that. I want those three to interact, because they're all aliens stuck on Earth, basically. The last of their kind. So they really need to bring him into that. So yeah, that was my thoughts on this season's premiere for Smallville on the first 2 episodes. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and hopefully I will see you guys in another year with another Smallville. Or wait, didn't I just say I wanted the show to end? Crap! Anyway, thanks for listening, guys, and I had a blast doing it for the whole year, and I look forward to doing this years to come. So you keep those Raging Bullets episodes coming, I will keep these BK's Bullets segments coming. Deal, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks, as always, for the time.
And thank you, Brent, for the audio comment. I apologize for the delay on that. It was one of those where it was like, where do we plug this in? And it just makes sense to just do it and air it. And thank you again, as always.